Okay, my dudes, this is going to be one of the more exciting streams that we've had in a very long time. So if you don't know what we're doing here, we are entering a fantasy football draft trying to win $1 million. Now, of course, we're not paying $1 million to go out and play in a fantasy football league. I mean, look at me. Do I look like I have $1 million to go out there and pay in a fantasy football league? That's absolutely ridiculous. And what's fantastic is the drafts that we are going to be entering tonight, they are only $25, and we're going to have a shot at winning $1 million. Now, I'm going to go through, I'm going to explain to everybody what's going on in just 1 second. But let me make sure I pull up the live chat. Let's get this stream going. Going to get the draft going really quickly. And I've been a little hesitant to go out here and actually stream this exact draft. Now, I will say that y'all know that I am literally a fantasy football addict to the point where all I do throughout the entire day, as I do my fantasy football research for the videos, for the podcast I make on Patreon, all I am doing is playing fantasy football on another screen. I'm going through and I'm in $1 million draft every single second of the day where they're all $25 buy-ins. I'm trying to max enter this contest to have a great shot at $1 million. And more importantly, I want to be the guy who says he won. I want to be the guy that comes out and says, I am smarter than all of y'all. I didn't get lucky whatsoever, because you know that would be my stance. You know how arrogant we would be about winning $1 million. But I want to be able to come out and I want to be able to just have that title. So I have been going through and doing a ton of these drafts, not on the live stream, because I will say that when you're going through and doing these drafts, there are strategies on strategies on strategies that you have to think about. It's not a regular fantasy football league, and that's why I've been hesitant to live stream it. And I want to put that disclaimer out here, guys. Do not think that you need to be doing this exact strategy I'm going to implement in your own fantasy football league. This is going to be a specific strategy for a specific contest that we are going to get into. Now, let me send out a notification on Discord. Let's enter the draft, and I'm going to just enter right away. And then as we go through the first 3 rounds or so, instead of talking about the picks, which of course we'll recap as we go through the rest of the draft, let me explain to y'all the contest that we are going to be playing in. So let's send that out on Discord. Let me enter this draft right now. And I'm sure that everybody in the live stream at this point knows what's going on, knows what I'm talking about with the $1 million draft, but I will explain it for anybody who maybe is unfamiliar. So let's send out a link, because we're going to be doing these through the public lobby tonight, my dudes. There's no link that's going to be sent out for a private draft. So make sure that you're entering into Best Ball Mania with me. I can't guarantee that you're going to get into the exact lobby with myself. I'm actually kind of hoping that you're not. And this sucks. This sucks so bad, because now that I look up and I pull up the lobby here, if y'all see this, we have 8 more people that need to join. So I'm assuming that a lot of people in the live stream are actually going to come hop in this draft right now, which is a little worrisome, because I will say the drafts that we're doing in the middle of the day, people in the public lobbies are so much worse than the people that come out to these live streams. I mean, the drafters on these live streams, the drafters in the chat, they're significantly better than the competition that we've been going up against in the real life fantasy football streets throughout the day. So I'm a little bummed knowing that a couple of y'all are going to be able to get into this league. I honestly kind of wanted it to be with just complete strangers. But as we wait here, let me explain what we are doing. So this is a $25 buy-in contest on Underdog Fantasy, and I'll get into that in 1 second. But what we have to understand is this is a tournament style league. So what actually happens is you get placed into your own 12-man league at the very beginning. So this 12-man league that we are going to be drafting with, this is going to be the 12-man league that we are going up against in weeks 1 through 14. And then we enter a tournament. So then the 2 highest finishers in this 12-man league that we're going to be playing in get entered into an 18-man pool just for week 15. And then the 2 highest finishers in week 15, they advance to the next round. And then they're going to get placed in their own 18-man pool. And then the winner of that 18-man pool advances to the final round, where there are going to be about 100 or so people in there. And then out of that pool, whoever wins, whoever has the highest score in week 17 is actually going to win $1 million. So there's so much strategy that goes into this. There is literally an absurd amount of strategy. Now let's go through, and yeah, just like I thought, there are going to be some of y'all in this draft, which I hate to see. Okay, so we have Fully Loaded out here, which I know that he's always coming out to these drafts. J-Stack out here, Swizzworld, YouTube Slayer. We go through, we also have NRG Fantasy Focus. So we have a lot of people that come out to our drafts, and that sucks because I wanted to go up against some random bums. And I am honestly trying to get in as many of these drafts as I can. Now, I will say, guys, I wouldn't necessarily recommend for you to do the same exact thing, because what's great about Underdog Fantasy is they're actually also going through and they're offering the same kind of style contest with a $5 buy-in, but instead of there being $1 million at the top, it's actually going to be $200,000 at the top. And don't worry, it's not like it's just the $1 million and then nothing below. It's the $1 million and then it's a ladder. Then it's like 250,000, 200,000, 100,000. Of course, look up the prices exactly, because I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. You get paid just for winning your 12-man league. You get paid for getting second in your 12-man league. So yeah, there is a ton with it. There's a ton of strategy going into here. And at the 109, we're going to be implementing something I know a lot of people are going to hate to see. Okay, so Devonte Adams goes to the 105. And I'm going to be talking about the strategy for this specific format, because I really want to let everybody know how I'm approaching this style of tournament, because I know there are a lot of people a part of the flock that are actually participating in these $1 million drafts, as I am throughout the day. So I want to make sure that, at least in my opinion, there are some clear stayaways, some clear things that you can't really do and you have to avoid. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with that, so we're not making mistakes. And it's going to be awesome. If one of y'all wins the $1 million, I will be extremely happy. And I bet you I'll be bragging, saying, oh, someone a part of the flock won the $1 million. Someone a part of the flock won the $1 million. And I'll be acting like I did on my own. So here, I guess we get Derrick Henry. I was just at dinner. I had to drive across town to eat dinner with my family. It was my mom's birthday. Did something happen to Derrick Henry? Is there a reason why he's falling to the 109 for us? Let me look this up. Let me just look up Derrick Henry on Twitter real quick, just to make sure nothing happened. Okay, yeah, so it looks like nothing happened. We are going to draft Derrick Henry at the 109. Y'all know this is a player that I'm not in love with, but at the 109, that's fantastic value where we can't pass up on it. And so going through and constructing your team in a tournament style like this, what we really have to be trying to strive for is not only having one of the best teams in the league, but also having a unique team that not many other people are going to have. You want to have that unique team, in that way when you get into the large field, if you make it to the final round where you have the shot at $1 million, if you have the same team as 30 other people, and of course no team is going to be identical with so many different variables moving around, no team is going to have the same all 18 players. And it would be very rare if that same construction actually got to the finals, because there are so many different levels. So you don't need to worry about that. But if you have the same core of players, if you have the same first 6 or 7 picks and you don't make yourself a little different at the end, that's where you can get into trouble, because at that point you may be in a spot where you can't necessarily take advantage of having the low owned players. So we have to try to strive to build a unique roster, and a unique roster start here for us is going to be a Jonathan Taylor and a Derrick Henry. Because with a Jonathan Taylor, we have to also understand that a lot of teams were actually going out and they were drafting Jonathan Taylor in the first round just about a month ago. So there are a lot of teams entered into this contest where it was simply impossible to get a start of the combination of both Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor. So I think that's already a start that not many people are going to have, which of course we love to see. And going in with this, guys, if for whatever reason you have not signed up for Underdog Fantasy, make sure you do so. Now, I will say, if you don't want to enter $25 of your own money to get into one of these contests, that's completely fine, because there's currently a glitch on Underdog Fantasy that I know we have talked so much about. But if you deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy, they're actually going out and they're adding $25 to your account when you use promo code FLOCK. And the weirdest thing about this glitch at the same time is you also get my 2021 rankings and you get my 2021 draft guide. So I would definitely take advantage of that. And what's great about this as well is they have the same contest called the Puppy. This right here is Best Ball Mania, and the Puppy on Underdog, those are $5 buy-ins where there's 200,000 at top. So I would recommend, if you're only going to deposit $10 and you're going to get the $25 added to your account, while you can go through, you can play in regular fantasy football formats with just 11 other people. It's not the tournament style. I know that's a lot closer to a regular league compared to something like this. If you are wanting to play in the tournaments, I would recommend that y'all do the $5 buy-ins. I would recommend that you do the Puppy. That way you still get in as much practice as you can. Like if you go through, if you do 5 puppy drafts and then all of a sudden you think you're ready for the $25 buy-in, then go out there and transition. But don't automatically just jump in and go right into the $25 league. But let's kind of recap how this has gone so far. So if we're talking about picks that are out of the ordinary, I mean, really the only thing that I have seen is, I mean, a Derrick Henry falling to this range is extremely rare. I mean, beyond that, I mean, Darren Waller, this is a little early for him, but not necessarily going to be screaming at someone for it. Nick Chubb falls to the 209. That's very rare. I think that a start with Travis Kelce, Nick Chubb's probably been accomplished a decent amount of times, though, considering a lot of drafts, you can get a Travis Kelce here at the 107, the 108. I mean, I think that this is a start that very few people have, and that's what we're kind of trying to strive for here. And also, guys, if you have not heard as well, when you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy and make that $10 deposit, you're doing so many things. A, you're getting $25 handed to you so you can go out and you can play in fantasy football drafts. B, you're getting my rankings. You're getting my draft guide. You're also getting my tiers and my Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. Hundreds of pages of information. And C, you are helping the channel. Like, if you enjoy these live streams, there's literally nothing, and I repeat, nothing that you can do that helps out this channel more than going out and using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And if we hit 10,000 signups on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, which I'd imagine this live stream probably gets 10,000 views, then we are going to be able to fly some people down to Tampa, Florida to go to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me through a giveaway for those people that did use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. We're going to be able to do that giveaway. We're going to go to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. We're going to vlog the entire thing, and we're going to have a Flock Florida meetup all hosted by Underdog. So please, guys, I want to go to the Bucs game. I want to go to the Bucs game with you all, and I want to do that Florida Flock meetup. So please use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. It's a no-brainer at this point. And let me pull up the stream real quick. We do have 50 likes in the live stream. Thank you so much for everybody who's gone down there and dropped that like. So yeah, this is a big deal right here, my dudes. So how many teams do y'all think realistically have started this contest off with the combination Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor? Because it is in the range of outcomes for Jonathan Taylor to go out and just completely smash in fantasy this year. So we are going to have to continue to try to push around the draft board a little bit. I do have a specific strategy that I think we may want to try to pull off if we can, given this league format. But yeah, let's go through, and it's going to be a difficult pick. I'll say we're not going to be interested in a Patrick Mahomes here in the third because we didn't get a Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. I really think the only time you can go through and you can draft Patrick Mahomes in the third in this kind of contest is whenever you did draft a Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, because, I mean, it would be very, very hard for a team that didn't have one of those players but had Patrick Mahomes to end up winning it all. Okay, so Mahomes at the 306. Okay, so let's pull this up real quick. So we started off running back. Now at the 309, we could try to accomplish something that not many people are going to be willing to do. The thing is, we have to try to figure out what is a least likely combination to stack with the Derrick Henry and a Jonathan Taylor. And I should probably pull this out a little bit more. Maybe y'all can see it better if we go like this. Okay, so Robert Woods goes. And I'm really tempted to take a J.K. Dobbins here. So if we take Dobbins, what we would most likely be doing is we'd probably only be drafting 4 running backs total in this league. Dobbins does have a separate bye week. Dobbins could also set us up with a stack with Lamar Jackson at the end of the 5th, the beginning of the 6th. I think we're going to go Dobbins. We're going to go with a very slim running back structure here. What's really nice is when you have those top running backs in a league like this, you can't afford to go out and you can't afford to just roster so many receivers, which is going to be very advantageous if we're trying to find some random guys for those spike weeks. So we're going to start this draft off with Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and J.K. Dobbins. So NRG Fantasy Focus goes with the David Montgomery. We definitely want to see running backs going off the board at this point. I mean, if we get a running back that we like falling back to us, we may consider taking them in the 4th, considering what it would do in just locking up our running back position. Honestly, not too excited to do that. So it's mainly going to depend on what the next few picks are. Okay. So if we're going up the next few picks, I mean, if a DeAndre Swift, a Chris Carson fall to us, we're really going to have to consider him here. They don't have the same buy as any of the other running backs that we've already drafted. And then we could just essentially go, you know what? If our 4 running backs stay healthy and we load up with the receivers later on, yeah, if DeAndre Swift falls, we're probably going to have to take Swift, to be honest. Did Mahomes... Okay, so Swift goes. Did Mahomes already go? Okay, so Mahomes was drafted at the 306. Okay, so here, you know the receiver that we are going to be drafting, NRG Fantasy Focus on the clock. He has David Montgomery, Stephon Diggs, and DeAndre Hopkins. So y'all know what receiver we're drafting. It's not going to be a surprise to anybody. Maybe if you're new to the channel, it'll be a surprise to you. And NRG Fantasy Focus, this is why I did not want to get in the drafts with y'all. This is why I did not want to draft with you. I wanted to draft some random people. But anyway, we're going to go, I guess we're going to take a Mike Evans here. Mike Evans, not someone that I'm drafting very often at all, because the majority of the time he's going before guys like Cooper Kupp, and he's always going before Chris Godwin. But this is why it sucks when I draft with y'all, because I am stuck here going, well, yeah, I definitely prefer having someone like a Chris Godwin. We are going to be getting Mike Evans as the first wide receiver of ours off the board. And guys, if you have not gone down there and dropped a like on the live stream yet, drop a like. I mean, could y'all have imagined a better start? I mean, besides us possibly getting a Chris Godwin, but we're blaming that on the fact that we're drafting with y'all. If it was a public lobby, we would have gotten we would have gotten Chris Godwin 100% falling to us at the 404. Okay. So DJ Moore at the 405. So you're going to see a wide receiver run here. A wide receiver run happens in this range literally every single draft. That's why I was hoping that we were going to have a DeAndre Swift or Chris Carson go off the board. Yes, we were probably going to have to take them if they ended up falling to the 404. But I was honestly hoping that they were going to go, because I really didn't want to have to start with that. I wanted to feel a little safer and go with the Mike Evans. So here we have an intriguing start. We have a team deciding to pass entirely on receiver. I'm going to say that I hate this team. I think that this team, to be honest, is going to have a very small chance to win the league. I mean, when you're going through and you're drafting a Mahomes in the middle of the third and you don't have any other Kansas City Chiefs players on your roster already, what's the likelihood that Patrick Mahomes actually blows up and you don't have any of the other teams who drafted Mahomes in the other leagues that are going into the same tournament? They'll probably have a Tyreek. They'll probably have a Travis Kelce. So how is Mahomes blowing up really going to help you? I mean, are you betting that he's going to have a bunch of rushing volume and the stacks aren't really going to work out? No, we know the stacks are going to work out. Also, when you go with 3 non-receivers in a row, you can't be taking a tight end here. You can't be taking Kyle Pitts. I don't agree with that whatsoever. Okay, yeah, so that wide receiver run continues to happen, which of course we do not like to see. Travis Etienne does go at the 412. This is going to be a lot earlier than where you see Travis Etienne go in the other $1 million drafts. I will say that for sure. I've been able to actually get Travis Etienne a lot of the times in here. Like if this was a public lobby, I wouldn't have been surprised if we were able to get Travis Etienne at the 509. So fully loaded. Also only does have 1 receiver. So he goes Etienne and Miles Sanders. Okay, so it looks like there are a few teams punting receiver. So it would have been very intriguing if we would have gone running back here and then a couple other teams would have punted receiver as well. Because I think that now through 5 rounds, we have fully loaded with only 1 receiver. We have Peace Tro with only 0 receivers through 4 rounds. We only have 1 receiver through 4 rounds. So yeah, let's see how this goes. And now you actually have Kyler Murray going here at the 502. Really don't like the Kyler Murray selection either. I mean, I don't necessarily know what you're trying to accomplish when you take a Kyler Murray at the 502. Okay, so let's get this going. Chimichanga says, I kind of like this more than the private lobbies. Yeah, we'll do, if y'all enjoy the $1 million drafts, because like I said, guys, this is what I spend all day doing. I'm literally in one of these drafts where I'm sure a lot of people watching this live stream right now, if you are playing on Underdog Fantasy, even if you're not a fan of the channel, and you're playing in the $1 million drafts often, even if it's just like a 3 p.m. on a Thursday and you go through and you join a public league, you're probably seeing Fantasy Flock here. You're probably seeing my username because we've been doing so many of these. Okay, so Claypool goes to the 503. I really like this start, getting that elite running back, then going 4 wide receivers heavy. Josh Jacobs at the 504. Okay, so let's pull back up where we are going to be going. So like I said, we started 3 running backs. And if we were going to consider taking a quarterback here, I think I know who we want. I don't necessarily want to lock ourselves in, though. I just hate drafting next to NRG Fantasy Focus. He's going to handicap us so much. It really does suck. Hawkinson goes. I think we're going to take Mark Andrews. I actually really like Mark Andrews in fantasy this year. I'm actually going to have to be raising him up on our rankings with the updated guide that I'm pretty sure everybody has by now. Like, literally, guys, spam in the chat, or if you're watching this as a video later on, leave a comment. Let people know that are currently in the live stream. Just say, I've gotten the draft guide. Let them know that you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, that you got the draft guide, because I'm sure that 99% of people in here actually have. Not 99%. We have about 350 people in the live stream. I'd imagine that about probably 100 to 150 people in the live stream have gotten that draft guide with promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And on those rankings, I am probably going to have to be moving up Mark Andrews now that we actually do have both the injury to a Hollywood Brown as well as Rashad Bateman. Lamar Jackson goes, I am pissed. I thought when NRG Fantasy Focus took a Josh Allen, we were going to actually get a Lamar Jackson to complete the trifecta stack with Dobbins and Mark Andrews. So a big reason why we took Mark Andrews there is I was assuming that we were actually going to have just the ability to go through and create that stack. And when we had Hawkinson go, I figured that there was a 0% chance that Andrews made it back when there was an okay chance that you actually had a Lamar. So we're going to take our 4th running back on this team, and we're going to be done at running back now. I'm no longer drafting running backs, where we're going to start this team off with a very heavy running back build and going Henry, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, and Kareem Hunt. Y'all know Kareem Hunt in these $1 million leagues, in my opinion, he's a literal cheat code because I think he's being drafted close to his floor if you actually look at what he has done over the past 2 years in his fantasy football finish. And if you had an injury to a Nick Chubb, good luck. Good luck winning the $1 million without Kareem Hunt. Literally, I promise you, the $1 million winning team would have Kareem Hunt on it. So I think we are going to be consistently taking him in here at the beginning of the 4th. I mean, I have Kareem Hunt in so many drafts, and I'm not planning on stopping anytime soon. So you have Edmonds, Dak Prescott, Mike Davis, all going directly after. So this is going to be a stack with Dak Prescott and an Amari Cooper. Okay, yeah, so I see everybody in the chat saying, Noah says, the guide made me an overall better person. That's pretty funny, my man. That's pretty funny. Okay, so Zach says, how do you get the guide? So all you have to do is use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, deposit $10, and then go to either Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord, literally anywhere. It's all in the description of the video. And you just have to shoot me a DM and say, Mason, listen here, you smelly ass, annoying ass bum who has no idea what they're talking about. I used your promo code on Underdog Fantasy. Here is my email. You have to give me your email because I need to confirm that you did use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Literally just send me that email. You don't even have to do anything else if you don't want. You can call me some mean names. I'm completely fine with that. I would actually encourage that because it would probably be funny to me and it would make my day a little more enjoyable because, I mean, at this point, really, I've been spending probably 3-4 hours every single day, which doesn't sound like much, but when you add it on to everything that I'm already doing, just sending out draft guides and sending out those thank you letters for everybody, I mean, it's taking a considerable amount of my day. I probably send out like 100 a day. So if you could just hit me with the funny joke when you ask for the guide and just say, Mason, listen here, give me your best insult. Obviously, don't go too personal. Don't go too personal. Don't try to cut too deep. But if it's going to be a generic insult, I would love to hear it. Noah says, laugh my ass off. NRG is just trying to screw Mason. I think that's what that Lamar Jackson pick was there. I mean, if we would have had Lamar fall to us there, I would have been just over the moon. NRG says, no, I just want to make my team unique. I will score the most points at the quarterback position so far. Yes, I will say, I think that this is going to be a very unique build when you stack both Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. And that's one reason I've been hesitant to go through and live stream these drafts because this isn't exactly the strategy you should be applying to your regular fantasy football league where the majority of live streams that we do, that's actually going to be that strategy. But I wanted to showcase the $1 million tournament that we have been entering because I know so many people have been asking us about it. A lot of people have been asking about my strategy. So yeah, I want to kind of go through and highlight how we have been playing this. And if we show off the board, I think that we have done a decent job creating a unique roster. I mean, the running back core of a Derrick Henry, a Jonathan Taylor, a J.K. Dobbins, and a Kareem Hunt. I think not many teams are going to have that. Also picking up just Mike Evans and Mark Andrews. So it is very, very scary in a format like this to only have one receiver. I will be the first person to admit that. But based on how running back hungry these teams seem to be, I think we could be a little excited about maybe the wide receiver value that we're going to get here at the 7-8 turn. So yeah, let's scroll this down real quick. And also, we're about to pass 150 likes in the live stream. My dudes, if you have not dropped a like on the stream, what are you doing? Go down there, drop that like, fix your life. Okay, so now let's go. TK Bird says, is the next draft Patreon or open? I'm doing these all as public leagues, so I can't create a private draft for $1 million league because I would not be able to get enough people to join a private tournament for $1 million league. So these are all private leagues on Underdog Fantasy. I'm sorry, these are all public leagues. And I'll say, kind of sucks that I know a lot of y'all are going to be joining because the regular public league that you would go out there and play in, I mean, it's going to be a lot easier than this. I'll tell you, I mean, just go and how about this, guys? If you're in the live chat right now or you're watching this as a video later on, let me know the dumbest pick that you have seen in a public league because I have seen some horrendous things. We did a draft last night in a public league which these are people that don't listen to the channel. These are just random people that you run in. And this is what I'm talking about, these leagues being free money. Patrick Mahomes went at the 106. Mahomes went at the 106, and you just saw some crazy off-the-wall picks like that really didn't accomplish anything in making a roster unique. All it did was kill the projection for the roster. So yeah, I mean, I think that the public leagues are way softer than the private leagues. I'd rather y'all not be in them, to be completely honest. But it is what it is. We're just going to have to deal with it. Okay, so Mostert goes at the 7-10. We kind of have to catch up on receiver here. We have no other option but to catch up on receiver. A.J. Dillon at the 7-11. Okay, so you do like to see those running backs going off the board, especially when we have 4 to start off the draft. NRG Fantasy Focus says, guys, I know it's not an optimal team, but if those guys go bananas, it's going to be hard to get me. Yeah, I'll say that definitely. You have to understand that, like, a league like this, and this is why I was hesitant to go out and stream this, because I know a lot of people are going to be seeing some different picks and going, that makes no sense. Why would you ever do that? You really have to keep in the back of your mind that this is a tournament style. You can't necessarily just view it as it's a regular 12-man league. So it's going to be a regular 12-man league for the first 14 weeks of the season, but the last 3 weeks you get entered into this large field contest where you have to win it to take down the $1 million. So here, I think that if we actually went heavy receiver earlier on in the draft, you know what we're going to do? And this is something that I know a lot of people are going to hate me for saying, and this is why I was hesitant to do this live stream. But Michael Thomas here actually does give you a significant edge in this contest. Let me explain myself with this Michael Thomas draft pick, okay? Let me explain myself after we make this. So we have to remember what we are trying to accomplish here. We are trying to create a team that is going to crush our league mates in weeks 15, 16, and 17. So we have to be far out ahead of the rest of the field. And another thing that you have to keep in mind when we're going through and we're drafting these $1 million best ball teams, a lot of these teams were actually drafted before the Michael Thomas injury. And back then, Michael Thomas was actually going in the 3rd round. So if you look at half the teams that have already been entered into this contest, they drafted Michael Thomas in the 3rd round. So if we're taking him here in the 8th round, those Michael Thomas teams are dead compared to ours. They have no shot at catching up to the points that we would have gotten with a massive discount compared to the price that they paid in the 3rd round. So you do have to value Michael Thomas a lot higher in a large field tournament like this, especially given his ceiling. So Michael Thomas is going to be our pick there at the 804. I mean, if we're going back, how many teams have the combination? Henry, Dobbins, Taylor, Michael Thomas. Very, very, very few. Okay. Jaden coming out with a massive, massive donation. Thank you, my man. Says, I was offered Clyde Edwards-Helaire and DK Metcalf for Travis Kelce. My running backs are Austin Eckler, J.K. Dobbins, Darrell Henderson, Javonte Williams, and Mike Davis. And my receivers are A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, and Robert Woods. Okay, so Jaden, we actually covered this league, I believe, last night when you asked us a question about it. And a big thing about this format is that it was actually a very shallow league. And I believe, Jaden here, you please correct me in the live chat, but I believe that you also have Mahomes in the same league. Now, if you have that Mahomes and Kelce stack, I would be a lot less willing to go out there and trade away a Travis Kelce, especially when we already have so much value at running back. What I would say is, instead of trading Kelce for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and DK Metcalf, I would possibly try to trade Kelce in one of your running backs like a Mike Davis. Get Davis off the roster regardless, because you're going to have to drop someone. So trade Travis Kelce and Mike Davis and see if you could get a better running back in return compared to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Nothing against CEH, but if that player has someone that they took in the 1st round instead, that would be a swap that I'm looking to make. Like, see if you can offer one of those players that are deeper down in your bench to get a better player in return compared to a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's nothing against CEH either. Okay. So now Justin Herbert at the 812. Okay, so someone told me they saw, Ryan says, I also saw Justin Tucker go in the 3rd round of my $100 league. That is disgusting. There are some people that are just very bad at fantasy football. Okay, so Marvin Jones at the 901, Robert Tunyon. And please, guys, you have to, this is why I was hesitant to go through and do these $1 million drafts on the live stream. While I do these all day, every day, a pick like a Michael Thomas, you really have to understand the context of it. So don't just see the Michael Thomas selection there and go, okay, I guess that means I need to draft Michael Thomas in my 12-man league, because that's not what that means at all. We're trying to optimize for this setting. We're trying to go out there and win the $1 million. And what would be great about winning the $1 million is obviously A, $1 million, B, having the ability to go through and just brag for the rest of my life that I was the person who took down the first millionaire maker on Underdog Fantasy. Hashtag promo code FLOCK. Use promo code FLOCK. Get my 2021 rankings. Get my 2021 draft guides. Also, go down there and get your $25 added on a $10 deposit, and it helps out the channel tremendously. But beyond this, beyond all of that, what would be fantastic is I could go through and I could kind of make a video recapping this live stream. Like, you know how old video game streamers will be like, oh, reacting to my first stream, blah, blah, blah. No, we go out and we go, okay, oh, reacting to my draft that won $1 million. I am hoping that happens so bad. Like, I would love to win the $1 million, even in a league that I'm doing just sporadically. But if I could also accomplish it while having that league be the one that I streamed, that would be next level. Okay, so, oh my gosh, this sucks really bad. So I really want to go with the Hollywood Brown here. Instead, we're going to go with the Logan Thomas. So the problem with going with the Hollywood Brown, and I want to draft a receiver, and we're going to end up having Hollywood probably go to NRG Fantasy Focus, considering the fact that he does have Lamar Jackson. But the problem with drafting a Hollywood is we have already taken both Dobbins and Mark Andrews. So we have already capitalized so much on the overall Baltimore Ravens passing offense. And if we would go out there, if we would also draft the Hollywood Brown, I think that would be a fantastic stack to have, but we would have to have the quarterback in that scenario. I mean, I don't think that we can find 3 league-winning players, all with Mark Andrews, Hollywood Brown, and J.K. Dobbins all on the same team if it did not mean that Lamar Jackson was on that same league-winning lineup. So we're actually going to have to probably pass on Hollywood, just considering the fact that we wouldn't have a Lamar Jackson and that stack wasn't available. Okay, Jazzy Fresh coming out with a donation. Thank you. Says, hello, Mason. Finally made it out, bro. How do you rate my team with the 5th pick? My man, let me go through. Let me check out this team. And first, let's make sure we can get our next pick in here. Seeing these running backs go off the board makes me a happy man. We want to see those running backs go off. Let's switch this back over. Okay, Edwards goes. Happy about that. We're done at tight end. We are done at both tight end and running back. We can only really look QB and receiver. So I think we're just simply going to have to go with the Devontae Parker here because we can, I mean, you have to be worried about falling behind at the receiver position. We also have to understand that we have to at least make the tournament. So we can't necessarily sit here and go, well, we're going to have the production with the Michael Thomas once we get to the playoffs. We have to get to the playoffs first. So Michael Thomas is going to miss the beginning of the season. I think Devontae Parker should be able to cover up that production. So let's go out and let's get Devontae Parker. So we're going to be looking at Jazzy's team real quick with the 5th pick overall. So if we're going up to the 5th pick, starting off Davonte Adams, I will say y'all know how much I love Davonte Adams. One thing that you have to be a little cautious of when you're drafting Davonte Adams in this league is there were drafts going off whenever we had the uncertainty with an Aaron Rodgers. So a lot of teams were actually able to get Davonte Adams here at the beginning of the 2nd round. And if you understand that, I think it makes Davonte Adams a little less appealing in this tournament structure. Now, of course, I love Davonte Adams. He's my 103 in a regular league, but I'm going to be completely honest. I would probably take Tyreek Hill over Davonte Adams in this format because nobody ever had a chance to draft Tyreek Hill in this entire tournament in the 2nd round. Maybe they got him at the beginning of the 2nd, but very few teams were able to get Tyreek Hill in the 2nd, whereas a lot of teams have Adams there. So if you're taking Adams at the 105, you're maybe just kind of getting crushed by those other Davonte Adams teams. Then you have Joe Mixon, Terry McLaurin, Darrell Henderson. So you have the 2 players that if you just think about it, there are other teams that were able to draft Darrell Henderson in the 10th, 11th round. So we just have to be a little cautious of that. Yes, they are great projections for this upcoming season, but at the same time, I think we need to keep in mind that those players that were getting drafted just a few months ago at a way cheaper price than they're going now, it's going to be really hard for you to create a unique team that also is going to beat those other teams that got the discount on the players that we no longer have access to, like a Davonte Adams, a Darrell Henderson. We have access to other discounts based on the other teams that did not previously. Like we go through who's someone that we actually have a massive discount for right now that the teams that I've already drafted, they didn't get that same discount. That is someone that we ended up drafting in a Michael Thomas there at the 804. So just a small piece that I want you to be paying attention about with the overall prices in consideration. Wilson here at the end of the 6th. I don't like this when you don't have any of the sacks with the Russell Wilson. Harris, I'm fine if you're desperate for touches. Jarvis, Gage, Melvin Gordon. Okay, yeah, so there are a lot of things that I would change about that team. I really hope that kind of helped out with where my thought process is, and I know this is very different than a regular 12-man league you're playing, and that's why I was hesitant to stream it. But I know a lot of people want to go out there. They want to get their shots in at the $1 million contest. So I want to give you all my thoughts. I want to give you all my strategy behind what we are doing in my real leagues. Okay, so Rondell Moore at the 1101. And guys, if you have not dropped a like on the live stream right now, go down there, drop a like. I actually need to pull up my phone real quick because I'm being a massive hypocrite if I'm not dropping a like myself. So let me pull up my phone. Let me drop a like on our own live stream. Y'all know that is kind of how I roll at this point. Okay, so we got that out there. Terrace Marshall at the 1104. Trevor Lawrence at the 1105. Okay. So now let's pull this up. And for anybody that's asking me questions about rankings in the live chat right now, I will say that what you should be doing is you should be using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, and you should be getting those rankings sent directly to you. That's what I'm going to be saying. Okay, so now we can't look at running back. We can't look at tight end either. We're strictly quarterback, receiver at this point. If we go through, I think we really do need to catch up on receiver when we only have 4 options here. We are going to be able to roster 9 receivers. We may end up having to go 3 quarterbacks if we don't necessarily find guys that we like with upside later on. Okay, so show me the money on the clock. We could go with, this could be a massive mistake. And I think the median projection of this team probably goes down when we make this call. But I think on the fringe, if we were able to make it to the tournament, like if Michael Thomas comes back a little sooner than we think, I think a Rashad Bateman just could be a league winner at this point. So we're going to take Bateman. We're going to take Bateman at the 1109. We're also keeping NRG Fantasy Focus from being able to get the double stack in there with both Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman. So we're going to take Bateman as our wide receiver 5, just chasing the ceiling. If it was going to be only a 12-man league where we didn't have the tournament format with it, I probably wouldn't have taken a Rashad Bateman there. Derek says, where do I send? I used said promo code. All you have to do is, guys, shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, Discord, Patreon, literally anywhere. Go to the description of the channel. And even if you don't have a social media, you can just click the link there to our Discord chat and you'll be able to send me a DM really easily. All you have to do is send me a DM with the email that you signed up with. That way I can go out there and I can confirm and get you that draft guide. Okay, so Irv Smith at the 1202. So NRG's back. He takes a Cole Beasley. So we're probably going to be going with an Emmanuel Sanders here. So with a player like a Marquez Callaway, I think that while, yes, it would raise our floor in bringing him in to kind of cover for Michael Thomas at the beginning of the part of the season, I don't necessarily think it does much for our ceiling. You know what? That may not be true because you could have both Marquez Callaway and Michael Thomas blowing up at the end of the year as well. So we're going to take Callaway here. It could be a bad call, but I'm thinking that this is probably going to cover us between the time Michael Thomas comes back and when they are both in there. It's not like a running back situation where we know both wide receivers can blow up together on a given week. And a big bonus about taking a Marquez Callaway is those teams that drafted a while ago, they didn't draft Marquez Callaway at all. I mean, he was going undrafted. So there are a lot of teams that were entered into this contest that didn't even have a Marquez Callaway. I think that's what makes other players like a Randall Cobb and Xavier Jones, they're a little more interesting in this format, in that if you get to the tournament, there are going to be a lot of teams at that tournament that simply didn't have those guys on them. Okay, so now after we take Callaway, we do see Sterling Shepard as the only other wide receiver going off the board. Honestly, probably wasn't even going to consider a Sterling Shepard, so I am completely fine with that. Let me know what y'all think of Marquez Callaway. Derek says, is this the $5 buy-in? No, a $5 buy-in is the league where you have a chance at $200,000. This one is where you have a chance at $1 million. So it is just a 5x time of the $5 buy-in. I recommend for everybody that's just now watching this live stream, I recommend for y'all, if you're just now depositing on Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK, get $25 added to your account. Don't do the $25 buy-in for the $1 million on top. Do the $5 buy-in for $200,000 on top. And of course, if you don't want to do the tournaments, you can also just do a regular 12-man league if that's more up your alley. But regardless, you're getting paid money to go out there and do fantasy football drafts. So make sure you take advantage. DMV says, isn't every puppy league in its own category? The old Devonte Adams late picks are in the puppy 1 and 2. Yes, sir. This is not the puppy, though. This is Best Ball Mania. Okay, so yes, that is a great point. In the tournaments, in the puppy 3 that's opened up right now, that tournament has not been open as long as what you had with the Devonte Adams injury, as well as the Devonte Adams rumors around Aaron Rodgers, where those teams were able to get him in the second round. That didn't happen in the puppy 3. So there, I'm completely fine taking you Devonte Adams at the 103. This isn't the puppy though. This is Best Ball Mania. Best Ball Mania has been going on for a while. Okay. We're also about to pass 200 likes on the live streams. Thank you so much, my dudes. And also, let me switch this over to subscriber only because it is becoming very hard to keep up with the chat. Okay, so subscriber only. And if you are not subscribed to the channel by now, I'd imagine everybody in this live stream subscribed. That's just ridiculous if somehow you're not subscribed. Okay, so Traquan Smith, AJ Green. We do need to see more running backs come off the board. Running backs, tight ends need to come off. Quarterbacks, of course, we need to have some quarterbacks falling to us. So we should probably plan on rostering 3 QBs in this league. There's a strategy where I've kind of implemented it some. I know that we would get... Okay, David says, couldn't you just cheat the system with 11 of your friends? My dudes, there's no way you could do that. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, they do have to confirm your identity. And just like how there's online poker sites, online poker spends a ton of money on just making sure that they have that security for poker tournaments to make sure there is no fraudulent activity going on. Underdog has the same kind of security. You can't necessarily go in there and just go, okay, y'all are all going to take just bum tight ends at the very end of the draft. You're going to let me get the best team out of this 12-man league. No, that's not going to happen. If anything like that were to occur, then Underdog flags it right away. You get banned for life. Your entry's obviously gone. If you go through and you read the rules, I mean, that's something you don't have to worry about. Yeah, don't worry about don't try to get you and your buddies to come in here and cheat it. It's not going to work, my dudes. All that's going to happen is you're going to get banned. Okay, so now Amara St. Brown does go at the 1307. So we're going to be looking at the combination of a quarterback and a receiver here. And there are going to be no options for us to actually go out there and stack. A Tua Tagovailoa could have been it with a Devontae Parker, but I think we just kind of continue to get receiver. We're trying to have to catch up at the receiver position. So I don't think necessarily Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Ryan Fitzpatrick does anything for us here. So we're going to take a Nelson Aguilar. And also a big thing is in this kind of format in particular, teams really can't afford to go out there and roster 3 QBs because while rostering 3 QBs, it does raise the floor of your team. It also hinders your ceiling. And we know that in this format, you're pretty much just chasing the highest possible outcome. So I think teams will start slowing down on the quarterbacks that they're drafting. At least I think they should. Who knows if they will. Okay, so Kirk Cousins goes. Philip Lindsay at the 13-10. Okay, NRG, let's check out his start so far. Lamar and Allen at QB. Then at running back, Montgomery, Mostert, Edwards, Drake, Philip Lindsay. At receiver, Diggs, Hopkins, Godwin, Chark, Hollywood, Cole Beasley. So he's very strong at receiver. Probably going to need some tight ends pretty soon. Okay. Ludade Dollars, I believe that's how you say the name, ends up timing out on an Xavier Jones. That's another thing that I've noticed in a lot of public lobbies. And this is why I'll recommend it. And I know that I probably shouldn't be saying this, but guys, if you're playing on Underdog Fantasy, you have 2 options to go out there and actually either do a slow draft. A slow draft is about an 8-hour timer where you go through and you're going to have a very long chance to make your selections. And I know a lot of people like that because they don't necessarily have the ability to just sit down and do live drafts all day like I just have the blessing that I can do. And here, I think if we're just going straight up upside, we're probably going to go with the Fitzmagic. We can stack them with a Logan Thomas here. Would we get a quarterback that we like in the 17th? You know what? We're not going to do it. We'll let someone else take Fitzmagic. Teams really can't afford to draft 3 quarterbacks here. So we'll take a Jacoby Myers instead, 20 picks behind his ADP. But a big thing is there are 2 separate drafts you can do for the Best Ball Mania. So if you're going to be joining a public lobby, and this is also advice for y'all joining just a regular 12-man lobby, even if you don't want to do a tournament, definitely make sure instead of joining the slow draft, that's an 8-hour timer, join a fast draft. Why fast drafts, in my opinion, are very advantageous is because you're going to go up against a lot of people that signed up for a fast draft and then it took about 10 minutes to fill. And if they weren't willing to go out there and sit around for 10 minutes, there's almost an auto drafter in every single fast draft that I do. It's hilarious how many auto picks go. And obviously those teams that are auto picking, there's no strategy behind those builds. So they're literally just donating money to the league pot. So always try to do live drafts if you have the time for it. Where slow drafts, that's where you're going to find a lot of the better drafters that will be in like 15 drafts at once. Live drafts, that's where the no bueno people are going to be. Okay, so now let's go through. Pump says, how do I join one of your drafts? My man, go to Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you make a $10 deposit. Then you're going to get $25 added to your account. And at the same time, you're going to get my 2021 rankings, my 2021 draft guide. And if we get 10,000 people signing up to Underdog Fantasy, which this live stream should easily get 10,000 views when it's all said and done, then we're going to get to fly people down to Tampa, Florida to go to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me. People who use promo code FLOCK. And we're going to do a Florida Flock meetup after. We're going to vlog the entire thing. Should be a ton of fun. Okay, so J.D. McKissick at the 1410. Hooper goes to the 1407. So another thing is, if we scroll up real quick and we show off the top of the draft board. So with our build in particular, I think since we invested so much into running back as well as tight end, because check it out, we got Mark Andrews at one tight end slot and we have Logan Thomas at the other. So when we're going through and we're trying to build the highest upside team possible, I think that we actually are only going to be rostering 2 tight ends because we know that random wide receivers at the very bottom, they have a higher chance to pop off for some random weeks for us. So I think we would rather spend extra roster spots on receiver compared to tight end. So we're going to be done at both tight end and running back. Pedro says, how many signups do we have on Underdog? I am not allowed to say a single number. Trust me, I wish I could tell y'all. I can't say that though. I literally can't. There are a multitude of reasons I can't. But I promise you, we will send out the alarms when we hit 10,000. I think that right now there's probably, if I had to put it in the odds that we hit 10,000 signups with promo code FLOCK on Underdog, I would say there's probably a 35 to 45% chance we do. I think it's close to 50-50. If I was a betting man, I'd bet that we don't. I don't know why. I don't know how we haven't hit it already, to be honest, just because it's literally a no-brainer thing. And like I said, guys, there's nothing you could do that would help this channel more. And there's nothing that you could do that would help you become a better fantasy football drafter more. So it's a win-win-win. That's why I waited so long to get this, to finally finalize a partnership, because like I said, this is the first partnership that we have ever had. I was very selective with the one that we had taken, and it's because this is perfect for everybody and how they were willing to sponsor that draft guide and how they were willing to sponsor our rankings and tiers. Okay, so now let's pull this up, and my God. So we get the quarterbacks falling back to us. Both Baker Mayfield and Ryan Fitzmagic. So this makes it where I am extremely happy that we did decide to go with the receiver in the last round. Now, if we pull back up QB and receiver, y'all are going to call me. Actually, I don't know if I can do it. I really want to take Randall Cobb here, because a big thing with Cobb is this is a player that not many people have drafted in these leagues so far. Like, he has been only a draft pick since the Aaron Rodgers trade. The trade to Green Bay to play with Aaron Rodgers. So you're going up and you're drafting him and you're facing the entire field that really doesn't have Randall Cobb. So I think he is a great pick, but the problem is we really do need to start getting these quarterbacks, because if we wait any longer, we're simply not going to have any. So, I think Randall Cobb's a fantastic pick. I probably shouldn't have talked about him just because we definitely wanted him to fall back to us. And I don't know if I want to show y'all my ultimate strategy with these, because there are a couple things. A, I want to have the biggest edge that I possibly can, so I don't want to say it in a live stream that has 10,000 people watching, because I know a lot of people are going to go, Mason, you're an idiot. That makes no sense whatsoever. Why would you do that? And at the same time, I think that while it seems dumb on the surface, it makes so much sense. So I don't know if we implement it here or not. You know what? I'm going to. Okay, y'all have to drop a like on this, though. And you'll have to hear me out on my explanation behind it. Drop a like. This is going to be my number one thing that I've been doing on these Best Ball Mania drafts, where y'all have seen me in the other drafts that we've been doing where it's only a 12-man league. I have not been doing this whatsoever. Actually, you know what? We don't have to. Okay, I'm not going to reveal the secret yet, because we have a better option that we can go to later on. So given the fact that we can find receivers that we're going to like that are very low owned later in the draft, even though T.Y. Hilton's a fantastic value here, we're probably going to scroll down and take a Carson Wentz. And the bet with this team, because when you go through and when you make $1 million draft and we're trying to find the highest upside possible, you can't necessarily just take players that have the safest medium projection. You kind of have to go through and tell a story with your draft. So if we go through and we tell a story with this draft that we started at the 109, the story on how this team wins $1 million is there were a lot of other teams that drafted a while ago that they were spending significant picks in taking a Jonathan Taylor in the middle of the first round, getting Derrick Henry at the beginning of the first round, and at the same time, they were taking Carson Wentz in the middle rounds. So the fact that now we're able to go through and essentially the bet that we are making is, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but obviously anything's in the range of outcomes, and we're trying to make these bets every single time we make a team. We're making different bets here that make sense to maximize our upside. So the bet that we're making is Jonathan Taylor smashes in fantasy, becomes a top 3 running back, and he's a league winner. And what would have to happen for Jonathan Taylor to smash in fantasy and become a league winner? What we need is Carson Wentz to come back and Carson Wentz to be a good quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, with Quentin Nelson being back and healthy as well. So if we're going to be making that bet by drafting a Jonathan Taylor there, and it's going to have the potential to win us our league, I mean, a Carson Wentz, he would have to be good in that scenario. He would have to be good if this team wins $1 million. So getting a Carson Wentz at the 1604 when a lot of people are drafting him previous at, I mean, they were drafting him up here with like the Trevor Lawrence, Matt Ryan range. We're going to take that. We're only going to draft 2 quarterbacks, to be completely honest. I think very few teams are going to have the combination of Fitzmagic and Carson Wentz as their only 2 QBs. And then we'll go and we'll get some wide receivers at the end. I mean, our receiver position isn't that strong. It's not that weak, but I like it. Okay, so Darrington Evans, Justin Jackson, and also Darrington Evans, like the worst thing that you could ever do in a format like this is go through and handcuff your running backs. Like we would have never had an option to actually take a Darrington Evans here on this team when we go with the Derrick Henry in the first, because the only way that this team has a chance of winning $1 million is by actually having Derrick Henry healthy the entire season. So Darrington Evans would have no value. And also, guys, let me know what y'all think about this. So when I've been going through and I've been doing these $1 million drafts, and I know a lot of y'all have been as well. So like I said, obviously it's not just the people at the top getting paid $1 million. You also get paid to win your league. You get paid to get second in your league. You get paid to get third in your league. And then you get paid every step of the process as you advance in the tournament. What do y'all think is more important to focus in on? Do y'all think it's more important to focus in on trying to maximize your ceiling with the teams that you draft in case you get to the tournament? Or do you think it's more important to try to go through and maximize your chances of getting to the tournament? Because that's obviously a massive balancing act that you have to do, because, I mean, it doesn't matter how good your team is for weeks 15, 16, and 17. If in weeks 1 through 14, you weren't a top 2 team in your league, you're not even getting into the tournament. You didn't qualify. So how are y'all balancing that? What are y'all placing a greater emphasis on? I think with the build that we just made, we're definitely placing a greater emphasis on just getting, to be able to be a dominant team in the tournament compared to just getting there. But let me know what you are thinking. Okay, Derek says he only wants the million. So it looks like Derek's saying he's not going for just laddering. He's not going and trying to make sure he has the chance to get in. That's kind of how I'm playing. I'm playing that, like, I either win it or I don't. I don't want anything in between. And a big thing also when we're going to be drafting at the very end here, I think that something that you can do to get a cheap edge in terms of just making sure that your roster is a little unique is you at least want to be taking at the minimum one player that is very rarely going in drafts. So here, I think if we do have a Brashad Perriman falling to us, we're probably going to have to take Perriman just because the value that he represents. And we know that he can be someone that can slide in while we wait for Michael Thomas and Rashad Bateman to produce at the end of the season. I think Brashad Perriman's actually going to make a lot of sense for this specific roster. But beyond the Perriman pick, what we're going to have to do is we're not going to be able to take a Byron Pringle. We're not going to be able to take a Quez Watkins, a Van Jefferson, a DeMarcus Robinson, all these other guys that are going to be fringe players on everybody else's roster. Instead, I want to be scrolling down. I want to be looking for someone that we go, okay, maybe they have a slightly worse chance to be relevant than those other guys at the top, but they're going to be rostered on way, way, way fewer teams. And if they're going to be rostered on way fewer teams, then all of a sudden they could be someone that if they did have a blow-up week when we got to the playoffs, I mean, they could make you advance when nobody else really is advancing with that same player. So we're going to go to the option that we go to a lot here. And I honestly kind of didn't want to be drafting him on the stream just because I don't want other people to start drafting him. But I think that he is someone that you could easily make the argument he should be going over these players right here. And literally nobody's drafting him. Nobody's drafting him, so we're going to take him. We're going to take a Rashad Higgins. So yes, Donovan Peoples-Jones is looking like he could potentially be the wide receiver 3 there in Cleveland. Trust me, you don't need to tell me about Donovan Peoples-Jones. I know everything about Donovan Peoples-Jones. Was the #1 high school recruit coming out of that 2017 class. Goes to Michigan, where they had some of the worst quarterback play in all of college football. So obviously, I don't want to say he's a failure there, but he has a very disappointing college career, and he goes to the NFL Combine in the 2020 class. He absolutely crushes. I understand the bullish case for a Donovan Peoples-Jones, but here, Rashad Higgins, we have seen him step up into a role with an Odell Beckham Jr. injury. Obviously, Odell is not the picture perfect of health, and I think that this could be an offense that maybe mixes it up a little bit if something happens with Odell earlier in the year. So we're going to go with a Rashad Higgins. Obviously, an Amari Rodgers is a better option, but a big thing is we have to understand that there are not going to be that many teams that drafted Rashad Higgins. Rashad Higgins is going to be a very low-owned player in this tournament, where Amari Rodgers is going to be on a ton. Okay. John says he just wants to get to the tournament and let the rest happen afterwards. That is completely fine. JK says Donovan Peoples-Jones was so cold in high school. Yeah, he's literally the #1 high school recruit in the country. Okay, but let me scroll back up, show the top of the draft board for anybody who was not in the live stream earlier. And guys, if you were not in the live stream earlier, make sure you go down there, drop that like ASAP. And Noah says, is the next draft for the million again? Yes, we're doing all drafts for the million. I'm going to exit out of this real quick. I'm not going to tell you when I'm entering the $1 million draft, because I want to try to get in with some people in the public lobby. I hate drafting against y'all. Y'all are so much better than the people in the public lobby. It's like, that's why I've been kind of avoiding entering in, because I think I'm maybe going to max enter the contest for the $1 million. And if I'm going to max enter the contest for $1 million, I want as many of those bullets to be going up against very bad drafters as possible, where I think that the people that come out and they draft during this live stream, they're significantly better than the average person in the public lobby. So I would rather not be drafting against y'all, to be completely honest. Also, if we get some random people from the public lobby in here, I promise you guys, we're going to see some crazy picks. Literally, the one other $1 million draft that I did at the very end of the live stream last night, we actually had a team taking a Patrick Mahomes at the 106, and just more and more extremely weird picks. Okay, Dizzy Mage coming out here, subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. And guys, if you have yet to hit that subscribe button, what are you doing? Go down there, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you know when we're live streaming and you can come out to the next live stream, because I will say we are live streaming every single night. Okay, so now Tazzer says, when is your next top wide receiver video? I'm talking about the wide receivers I've drafted the most in these leagues tomorrow morning, my man. Okay, so we pull the 108 here. This is going to be a very similar draft. Kind of sucks. I mean, literally the $1 million drafts, they only give me picks in this range. I think I don't know how many of these we have done, and I've never gotten the 101. I will say in one draft, I had the 103, and it was really funny that someone took Derrick Henry at the 101. So it ended up going CMC, and I actually was able to pull off Dalvin Cook at the 103, which of course I loved. But going through and seeing some regulars out from the stream, we have NRG Fantasy Focus out here again, Chimichanga out here again, two very tough drafters. I'm happy that they're on the opposite side of the room compared to me. Then we have Lank Dog, another very tough drafter. I'm happy he's not next to us. Then beyond this, I don't think I've ever seen Napkid. I don't think I've ever seen Nathan Freeman, Matt Duvall, Snooze. Maybe this is a name I've seen before, but I'm not sure. I'm 100% sure that the regulars are right here. NRG, Chimichanga, and Lank Dog. So I'm just happy that they're not near us. Derek coming out with a donation says, don't be a donkey. Hit that subscribe button. Let's go. Yes, sir, guys. Don't be a donkey. If you want to be a good fantasy football drafter, unlike myself, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm sorry for moving everything around, guys. I'll stop doing that. Jayan says he got the 101 in his first $1 million draft. Let me know, how many times have y'all gotten the 101 in these? Because it's honestly ridiculous. I mean, I'm going to have such a low ownership percentage of Christian McCaffrey, and obviously I'm just as high on Christian McCaffrey as everybody else, but I've just had no chances to draft him. It really does suck. Okay, so now Dalvin Cook at the 102. And Tanner says, how did I miss this draft? No private link, ? No, all these are going to be the $1 million drafts that are being hosted on Underdog Fantasy through the public lobby. Okay, so now let's pull this back over. And like I said, guys, if you are just now joining the live stream, this is a draft where we are attempting to win $1 million in a fantasy football tournament. How it actually plays out is through the first 14 rounds, we're going to be playing against our 12-man league here. And then the top 2 leaders after week 14, they're going to advance to the next round in week 15. We're going to be placed into an 18-man pool. The top 2 scores in that 18-man pool then get put into the next 18-man pool in week 16. The highest score in that 18-man pool in week 16 advances to week 17, where you're in the championship week with 100-something people, and you're going through and you're fighting for $1 million. So it changes the strategy a ton when you are drafting. Do not be watching this draft and think, okay, this is exactly how I have to be drafting in my own 12-man league, because it's almost a completely different game, which is why I've been very hesitant to go out here and live stream it. Okay, so now we are on the clock. I think we're taking a Tyreek Hill. No? You know what? Based on all these teams, the thing is, I'm trying to figure out how the room's going to go. We went with a very running back heavy build to start the last draft. I'm trying to figure out if I should take Barkley here. That's my question. We're just going to take Tyreek. We're going to take Tyreek. It gives us a very high floor. We don't necessarily have to worry about it. So we're going to take Tyreek, and then possibly we look to build something a little different in this draft. Alan says, I've done 34 drafts and I've only gotten the 101 once. Shake my head. That is disgusting, my man. Golf for Life says, I haven't had the 101 in 40 drafts. It honestly makes me think like Underdog is out to get us. Underdog is out here trying to make sure that people in the flock aren't getting the 101. That is my assumption of it. That is my assumption. Okay, so Aaron Jones. I need to figure out how to make my avatar custom. I really wish they could have gone through, and because like if you go through and if you look like poker sites, poker affiliates that play on the site, they actually get like custom avatars like on GG Poker and stuff. I asked Underdog if they could do that for us. I was like, can I have my own like unique one? And they're like, no, buddy, no, you can't. I was like, they're like, you can change it on the app, but you can't have your own. Okay, so after passing on to Saquon Barkley, we do see some more receivers going off with a Stephon Diggs and a Calvin Ridley. Aaron Jones goes here at the 210. I'm sorry, at the 110. Chimichanga says he's gotten the 101 like 6 times. Okay, guys. Okay, I get it. I get it. Okay, so now we have Austin Eckler at the 112. Okay, guys, if you're going to ask me a rankings question, I'm not going to lie. At this point, asking me a rankings question in the live chat is insulting. It would be different if I was like someone else and I was coming out and saying, hey, I'm selling my rankings and I'm selling my draft guide for 50, 60 bucks this upcoming season. Because obviously, I mean, that's a very big ask. So I wouldn't get upset with anybody coming out here and asking me for a ranking. But when I'm literally telling you that all you have to do is make a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy, it helps out the channel a ton. And to go along with that, you get my entire draft guide, all my updated rankings all the way until the season. Don't be asking me a rankings question on the live stream in the live chat, because I've done this special partnership just because I want everybody to have my rankings and I want this to be a win-win for everybody. And this is a win-win for us now that we get Jonathan Taylor in back-to-back drafts in the second round. I mean, Jonathan Taylor is the perfect player for a format like this because you do have the access to the elite ceiling where he could break fantasy football. This is someone that is getting targets out of the backfield at the same time. And now that it sounds like Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson are trending towards being healthy closer to week 1 than we initially thought. Jonathan Taylor at the 205 when a lot of other people earlier in this tournament contest were taking him in the middle of the first. I love that Taylor pick at the 205. Okay, so Nick Chubb at the 207. So obviously Chubb is a faller. Hey guys, what I want y'all to do is, do y'all remember just about 2 months ago when Nick Chubb was going in the first round in every single draft, and we were screaming that Nick Chubb was one of the worst picks in fantasy football if you were going to be taking him in the first round? I was completely fine with him in the middle of the second round. Do we all remember that? I want you to go down. I want you to remember the people who told you 2 months ago that Nick Chubb was a good pick in the first round. I want you to remember those people, because if they told you that, if they told you to take a Nick Chubb over an Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler, a Barkley, I mean, they were doing you no service whatsoever, because all of a sudden now in drafts, you can actually get Nick Chubb in the middle of the second. So please take a little mental note. Take a little mental note. Okay, so now let's go through Joe Mixon, Darren Waller. Obviously, we're kind of wanting some receivers to fall back to us when we get a Taylor here at the 205. Najee Harris at the 210. I'm just happy we have them far away from us. I last draft we had to draft next to NRG. And I'm interested to see how NRG builds a unique team here. Because a big part of this is just building a team not many people are going to have, which I think we accomplished down to a T in our last draft. So he goes Dalvin, Justin Jefferson, probably the most popular start to have with a Dalvin Cook. But obviously in the earlier rounds, it is a little harder to become unique. Mofo says, I went through your whole guide. It didn't help me decide between Kalen Ballage and Steve Slayton. Oh my God, I'm sorry, man. Don't expose me like that out here. I know we didn't talk about Kalen Ballage and Steve Slayton in our guide, but did you really have to tell everybody out that? I'm trying to get people to go get our draft guide. People were probably going to go get our draft guide because they wanted to hear about Kalen Ballage. Now you're telling them that they're not going to hear about Kalen Ballage. Are you really trying to make me look like a dumbass out here? Like, are you serious? Can someone boot him? Can someone get him out of the live chat? No, don't listen to him. I talk in depth about Kalen Ballage. I promise you. I talk in depth about Steve Slayton. Guys, oh my gosh. Okay, so JN coming out says, Rashawn looks like a beast. It's hard to tell if Bijan or Rojo just from watching their running/cuts. Very exciting. He's also bigger than Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson's the guy. I mean, he is literally going to be the next Ezekiel Elliott as a prospect at the running back position, my man. Swizzworld says he just pulled the 101 in a puppy. Congrats, my man. Congrats. Okay, so now Terry McLaurin at the 304. So J.K. Dobbins at the 305. Remember, we're trying to create a unique build here. A unique build. So here, this is a team that took Kelsey in the first. He has yet to have a wide receiver. Oh, this could be very intriguing. Come on, what is he going to do? What is he going to do? Tyler Lockett at the 306. Tyler Lockett over Amari Cooper, over Robert Woods, over Kittle, DeAndre Swift, Mahomes. Very interesting there. Kittle goes. That sucks. I wanted Kittle. Now with this selection, I think we just go with Amari. I want a receiver here. We're just going to go with Amari Cooper. DMV Sports Zone says, interview on the channel, Fantasy Analytics co-host. My man, I am very sorry. Thank you for reaching out. Shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, or really anything. Right now, I will say it's going to be very hard for me to carve out some time. I'm sure that a lot of people in this live chat know that I literally make like 8 podcasts a day over there on Patreon. And at the same time, I'm making a video a day. I'm live streaming every single night. And I'm sending out draft guides throughout the entire day. I probably work at this point 15, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. So maybe just shoot me a DM somewhere. Shoot me a DM somewhere, but I'm saying most likely not. And that would be something for the offseason. And Derek coming out says, all fat team, starting 5, Eddie Lacy, Kelvin Benjamin, Jay Lorenzen. Who you got 4 and 5? Can we throw in, who was the running back that actually can we throw in Peyton Hillis? Peyton Hillis and Trent Richardson. Can we throw them in on the all fat starting 5? Maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe I'm just calling Peyton Hillis fat because I don't know what I'm talking about. But I remember Peyton Hillis being a pretty big boy. Okay, so after we go with Amari, you have Chris Carson, Robert Woods, David Montgomery. Jamar Chase at the 312. Okay, so now this is what I like to see. Now, this is something I would not recommend doing in a regular fantasy football league, but the easiest time that you can actually go through and you can make your team unique, it's very hard to reach on players at their ADP and accomplish this in the middle rounds, because if we would have reached on a Jamar Chase in the 3rd, well, a lot of other teams were just able to get him with our same exact construction in the 6th. But very, very rarely are Jamar Chase and T. Higgins going in this range. So when this team's going to be able to go out and they're going to be able to pair a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins with an Eckler and a Saquon Barkley, not many teams are going to have that construction whatsoever. And that's why I actually think that a team that's probably going to win the $1 million contest, it's either going to be at the 112, the 111, or the 101, the 102. Because a lot of these teams in the middle are kind of going to look the same. So that's why I'm not excited when we pull the 308. I mean, I think we can get excited when we get Taylor in the 2nd, but beyond that, it's going to be pretty damn hard. Okay. So let's pull this back up. We are on the clock. So obviously Swift looks like a massive faller, but I actually think when we have a Tyreek Hill here, we're going to take a Patrick Mahomes at the 405. I think very rarely Mahomes would have fallen to the 405. Yeah, and I think that we're going to go with Mahomes. We're going to go with Mahomes just to get that stack in here. And we know that in their playoff weeks, we actually have Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill with a very soft schedule. So let's get our Kansas City Chiefs stack. We did it at a decent value, so I'm not going to be too upset about it. Ryan says Peyton Hillis was jacked. Let me look up a picture of Peyton Hillis. I know Trent Richardson was fat. Okay, yeah, you're right. Peyton Hillis was jacked. I owe Peyton Hillis a massive apology. Peyton Hillis is a damn unit. That is embarrassing that I called Peyton Hillis part of the all-fat team. Peyton Hillis is a big boy, but no, that's a big boy with muscle. Okay. So now let's go through, and after we take Mahomes, we have Mike Evans, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift. Okay, so Lank Dog here gets a start with 4 running backs in Ezekiel Elliott, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins, and a DeAndre Swift. So we can imagine that he's most likely done drafting running backs at that point. I think once you spend your first 4 picks on the running back position, and especially in the $1 million contest, you are already so tied up into those 4 players that you can't necessarily afford to go out there, and you can't afford to continue to draft guys because you're more so just trying to get guys. I mean, you need guys that are going to be able to spike into your starting lineup, and you already have 4 guys that can do that during the playoff weeks. Okay, so Ethan says, Yo Flock, why did you take Amari Cooper over David Montgomery? A big part of that is going to be the fact that this is a league where you actually have to start 3 receivers. And I did have it in mind that we were going to be looking at one of possibly a Patrick Mahomes or a DeAndre Swift falling to us in the 4th. I didn't necessarily know who it was going to be. So I think we prefer to go with an Amari Cooper and just say DeAndre Swift was the player. Patrick Mahomes didn't fall to us. I preferred an Amari Cooper and a DeAndre Swift versus someone like a David Montgomery and a Mike Evans. Minicky Man says, big respect for streaming every single day. I'm sure that's probably pretty taxing. My man, I will say that it is, of course, tough, especially just like on my voice and stuff, and the fact that I'm sleeping probably 5 hours a night. But it's really easy whenever it's the number one thing that, I enjoy on planet Earth is literally doing fantasy football drafts. So it'd be different like if I was live streaming and I was doing anything else. But if I'm playing fantasy football leagues, my man, I'm having fun. But if y'all are enjoying these live streams, guys, like I said, this is the first partnership that we have ever had on the channel, and I'm kind of hoping it's the only partnership that we ever have. So when y'all go down and when y'all use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, y'all make it a lot more possible for us to be able to do these live streams every single night next season. I've already told y'all that we're going to be doing these live streams every single night this year, but make sure y'all are using promo code FLOCK if y'all are enjoying these live streams. It helps us out tremendously, and at the same time, we can go through and we can also do those streams next year if this sponsorship goes well. Okay, so let's pull this back up. And also, guys, if you're enjoying the live stream, go down there and drop a like. Let's get this live stream over 300 likes. Come on. Okay, so now at the 5:08, thank God we see Kyler go off the board. So snooze goes Odell Beckham Jr. So I think we are going to take a Travis Etienne here. I know a lot of people are going to be screaming in the comment section, Mason, didn't you hear the report? Travis Etienne's a backup running back. James Robinson's the starting running back. It's James Robinson. Maybe it's James Robinson for the preseason and the first couple weeks in the regular season. But they didn't draft Travis Etienne in the first round to be a gadget player. They drafted Travis Etienne in the first round to be Alvin Kamara, to be Aaron Jones, to be DeAndre Swift, to be that versatile running back getting targets out of the backfield that also has the size to get touches in the red zone. And we're also looking for someone that can be highly productive by the time we get to the fantasy football playoffs. So we're going to be taking we're going to be taking a Travis Etienne at the 5:08. Foster says, is the promo code for Underdog on Patreon? The promo code for Underdog Fantasy, my dudes, is promo code FLOCK. You don't have to go to Patreon to use promo code FLOCK. Literally, just click the link that I sent out in the live chat. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy, make a $10 deposit with promo code FLOCK. Get paid $25 into your account automatically with that promo code. And at the same time, get our draft guide, get our rankings, and help out this channel tremendously. Okay, Cheese says, is having Woods, Cup, and Stafford all together on my team and a regular team a good thing? Yes, sir. Getting that correlation. When you draft a player like a Matthew Stafford, you're essentially making a bet that he's going to be in the top 5 in the NFL in passing yards because we know he's not beating his ADP with any kind of usage on the ground. I mean, he's not going to go out there and be a high volume rusher and could be exciting in that way in the slightest. So when you're making that draft pick of a Matthew Stafford, you're already making a bet on him going out there and being that player that can rack up a ton of passing volume. So if that's going to happen, you know that his passing options with a Robert Woods and a Cooper Kupp are going to be doing that same thing as well. So yeah, I think that definitely having Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Matthew Stafford all on the same team is a great thing. Okay, so Hawkinson goes to the 512. I have seen tight ends fall a little further in this format in particular. So Tyler Boyd at the 601. So we're probably going to be, actually, I don't want to say it yet. There are a couple different things that we can do. So Mark Andrews does go. So let's pull this up. So we have a very balanced start with Mahomes, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Tyreek Hill, and Amari Cooper. A very, very balanced start. I want to reach on a Kareem Hunt again. Y'all know how much I want to reach on a Kareem Hunt. I don't know if we can, though. I think with this build in particular, we're probably going to have to go with the Robbie Anderson. I mean, Robbie Anderson, we know he's going to have that role in his offense. Okay, I did not read about this with the sore hamstring. Okay, so I think we're still probably going to go with Robbie Anderson here at the 605. We really just need to make sure we're not getting caught behind at receiver. I was kind of fine going through and drafting a Kareem Hunt in the 6th round in our last draft because when we took Hunt, we were allowing our team to be only structured around 4 running backs. And I don't think us drafting Hunt here allows this same roster to do just that. So we're not accomplishing as much when we make that pick. So I think just going in and making sure that we're getting another receiver that we're going to get usable weeks from is going to be important. Okay, so now we have Freeman here really going in on this Bengals stack with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. So you know this is a team that's going out there and drafting Joe Burrow. That is very clear. Okay, Kareem Hunt at the 610. That is just fantastic value on Kareem Hunt. I'm taking Kareem Hunt over Mike Davis, especially in a format like this when we're trying to hunt some upside. Okay, so Trey Sermon at the 611. Kenny Gallaudet. Gallaudet, I think, is actually a pretty good value there at the 612. You know you can get Daniel Jones extremely cheap later on. And at the same time with a Kenny Gallaudet, this is actually a receiver that we know has that spike week potential given his average depth of target. So I think he is very interesting in a format like this. Okay, Adam says, is there any way to get the free money back? Because I didn't know I had to spend it right away. What do you mean, is there any way to get the free... I have no idea what you're talking about, my man. If you have any problem on Underdog Fantasy, definitely send a message to Underdog support. I have never had a problem on Underdog where I needed to contact their support, but I've heard 3 or 4 other people having problems, one problem or another on Underdog. Mainly it was all user issues, but regardless, whenever they emailed or whenever they sent the messages to Underdog Fantasy, I was told that Underdog Fantasy got back to them like that and they resolved the issue right away. So whatever there is, make sure you just send a message there. Okay, so now we got Juju going at the 703. So let me pull this back up real quick. So the 708, really the only thing that I think we can't look at is going to be a quarterback because the only quarterbacks in this range would be a Justin Herbert, and we don't necessarily have any of the potential stacks, so I don't think we can reach on a Herbert. Okay, this may be a pick that makes me throw up a little bit if we have to make it. Snooze goes 5 receivers out the gate. He has Adams, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Odell, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. That is a very high upside start if he can luck himself into a couple of running backs that end up getting vaulted up into starting roles. Okay, so let's see where he goes here. He goes with another receiver. So I actually think that... I don't want to make a reach on it, so we're not going to. We're going to probably make a pick that makes me throw up a little bit. Now, y'all know Myles Gaskin has been someone that I've been screaming over the past couple months to avoid him in fantasy drafts, given the fact that, I mean, he's not someone you're making a bet on the talent with. You're making a bet on projected volume, which is going to be very fragile if you're not necessarily thinking the running back's an extremely talented player. But looking at a Myles Gaskin, I think he does allow us to help, this roster get a little more unique, and that the majority of drafts that have already drafted actually had Myles Gaskin as a 5th round pick. So I think getting Gaskin in the 7th here is going to differentiate this team just slightly, in that there's going to be a lot less combinations with a Myles Gaskin and these other players that were going in the 4th, 5th round earlier. So Gaskin, someone that y'all know I really, really do not like in fantasy football. I've been on record saying that, but I think in this specific tournament, it's going to make a lot of sense. Sam says, Mason, are you into sports cards? Sadly, my man, I do not have any more brain cells that I could devote to sports cards. I don't know the first thing about them. Okay, so now let's go through. Michael Thomas to the 7-11. Thomas also could have been a player. Thomas probably was definitely the higher upside pick. We probably should have gone with the Thomas. And guys, we are about to pass 300 likes on the live stream. Drop a like on the live stream if you have not already. What are you doing? Foster says, I deposited $10 after signing up with promo code FLOCK, but the balance only says 10. My man, please make sure. Okay, you're saying never mind, just got the 25. Okay, okay, good. I was going to say, make sure you shoot them a DM, because I have never heard that problem being a thing on Underdog. Happy to hear that you got your 25 added. So yeah, maybe you just have to give it literally 1 second, my dudes. Okay, so Will Fuller at the 7-12. See where Freeman's gone. I receiver. He did go with the Bengals stack, and he's getting Fuller. A very unique team, definitely. And he goes with a Jalen Waddle as well. So he's going with the Miami Dolphins stack. He's going to double stack Miami and Cincinnati. So obviously he needs to have both a Joe Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa falling back to him. Maybe we go in and wreck those plans. We'll see. We'll see. So James Robinson at the 802. Honestly, we love James Robinson going off the board on a team that we draft Travis Etienne. We're not looking to take James Robinson at all. Come on. I think that it's clear what we need. It's clear. It's clear as day. Robert says, are we doing a flock draft tonight? Let me know if y'all are enjoying these $1 million drafts, or if y'all want just a regular private draft that we can do in the overall chat. Please let me know. Let me know what y'all want. Are you freaking kidding me? What was this team doing in taking Nicole Hardman away from us? Oh my gosh. I thought we had the double stack falling into our laps. That pisses me off. We needed a 4th wide receiver. Here do we just go with the Brandon? We're just going to go with the Cooks. It really does suck. I thought we were getting McColl. We were going to get the stack in with Tyreek Hill. We were going to get the stack in with Mahomes at the same time. How dare you? How dare you take Nicole Hardman on that build? Eric says, is Underdog only on your phone? I tried to download on my PC and it said I couldn't. Any advice? My man, I am literally on my computer right now. You can't download an app on your PC. If you're going to go on your PC to play on Underdog, you just use whatever you're using. I'm on Safari right now, but you can do it on your phone. You can do the app on your phone, or you can just do you can just do a web browser on your computer. Angelo says, I'm loving the public drafts. And then we have some other people saying they want the private drafts. Okay, so we'll take a vote after this one. We'll take a vote after this one on if y'all want a private draft or if y'all want another $1 million draft. We've done $2 million drafts. I think at this point, y'all kind of know a little bit more about how I'm approaching this and trying to build the unique lineups. And it's a lot easier said than done. I think that we have honestly not done a good job of building a unique team so far. A big reason why I decided to take a Myles Gaskin at the 708 is simply because a lot of other teams that were drafted in this contest previously were drafting Myles Gaskin in the 4th, 5th rounds. And obviously, if we're getting him at the 708, that can set this team apart from those same rosters. But beyond that, I don't necessarily know if we've done anything that makes this team unique in the slightest. So I think our last team was definitely a lot different and it had a similar ceiling. So I do prefer the last team that we drafted. Maybe we can try to mix things up in a second. Ethan says Byron Pringle is the wide receiver 2, not Nicole Hardman. My man, that is completely false. That is completely false. I know a lot of people want to come out and go, but Mason, Nicole Hardman's not playing in two wide receiver sets for Kansas City. Of course, Nicole Hardman's not playing in 2 wide receiver sets. Do you understand the function of a 2 wide receiver set in the Kansas City Chiefs offense? Are you really just going to stop at that baseline level analysis? No, what you really need to understand is you need to understand that the Kansas City Chiefs, they only run a 2 wide receiver set on 25% of their plays in 2020. That is such a small fraction for the amount of snaps that you're going to have a wide receiver out on the field. And to go along with this, if you're looking at when they are running that 2 wide receiver set, a lot of the times it's in those situations where they're killing the clock and just running the ball out. So if you look at passing down neutral situations, the majority of the time they are in 3 wide receiver sets. And in those sets, Nicole Hardman is on the field every single drive. This is someone that was a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, recruited at Georgia as a defensive back. He transitions to wide receiver in college, so of course he's not going to be polished right away. He's 23 years old. He's literally the same age right now that Deebo Samuel was his rookie season in that same draft class, that Terry McLaurin was in his rookie season in that same draft class. So it makes sense why he's needed to take some time to develop. You can't just stop at that baseline level of analysis. You have to dive a little deeper into it. And of course, it's extremely possible that he goes out there and face plants, but it's also possible that this is a player that we can kind of map out the clear upside path for. Okay, so I think if we did decide to take a Zach Moss here, we probably would be done at the running back position. I don't like how we're doubling up on... I'm trying to figure this out. At running back, no, we're not going to take a Zach Moss. We're going to get another receiver in here. We're going to get Elijah Moore in here. Okay, yeah, I think that you're looking at receiver drying up. It would have been intriguing to go out and to draft the Devontae Parker and not to allow this team here at the end to get the double stack in with the entire Miami and the entire Cincinnati Bengals offenses in there. But yeah, I think we're going to go with Elijah Moore. Okay, I know a lot of people want to say Mason Nicole Hardman busted the past 2 years, guys. Nicole Hardman was a 21-year-old rookie that had played the wide receiver position for like 2 years. And also Nicole Hardman's been someone that's being drafted in the double-digit rounds. This isn't a receiver that's busting in the top 5 rounds. It's a low probability bet with whatever guy you're going here. I mean, are you going to be screaming at me that the wide receiver that we took instead of a Nicole Hardman and a Brandon Cooks is that much better? I mean, that's the thing. It would be different if Nicole Hardman was going over guys like a Deebo Samuel, a Robbie Anderson, a Laviska Shenault, Antonio Brown, Tyler Boyd. There you actually have to kind of consider to make some changes. But Nicole Hardman, this is the earliest you're going to see him going in fantasy drafts. He goes earlier in underdog drafts than he's going to go in any other contest. Okay, so James Conner at the 9-11. So I'm assuming that this is going to be Burrow and Parker. That's my assumption. Zach Moss, very intriguing here as a running back 3. There's no way they pass on Burrow. There's a 0% chance they pass on Joe Burrow. Okay, yeah, so they take Burrow. So if we're going to be looking at a quarterback that we could potentially take to stack with any of our guys, obviously we have a Patrick Mahomes on this team, so it's not a priority to go in and bring in another QB. We also do need to make sure that we're getting a second tight end. We're getting our first tight end coming in here. So Gus Edwards goes. I honestly think when we go Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Myles Gaskin, that we can't afford to just roster 5 running backs on the team because we're only going to have to draft 2 quarterbacks. So I think we have a couple different options making it back to us. Okay, Matthew Stafford. So honestly, Matthew Stafford, not someone that we would be considering given the construction of our team so far. Instead, we're going to take a Tyler Higbee here. I think if we get Higbee and we get another tight end that we feel okay about, then we will have the potential to just go through and instead of drafting 3 tight ends, we can stop at 2. So we're going to get Higbee, someone that I hated in fantasy last year, but now you have Gerald Everett going over to Seattle. You have an improved overall offensive environment with Matthew Stafford coming in from Detroit, and Josh Reynolds is gone. So I think you do have to get excited about Tyler Higbee here at the 10:05. So Jalen Hurts at the 10:06. So let me know what is your favorite quarterback out of this trio? I'm not trio, out of this grouping. Out of the guys like a Tom Brady, a Trey Lance, a Joe Burrow, a Matthew Stafford, a Jalen Hurts, who's the guy that you're usually drafting? Because the quarterback that I'm usually drafting, I know it's not a sexy name. I was drafting Trey Lance in every single draft when he was going significantly further down draft boards than this. I mean, it's hilarious that people are finally catching on to Trey Lance. But the guy that I'm usually drafting out of this group is going to be a Jalen Hurts, and that we're looking at him as being a quarterback that you don't need to have one of those Philadelphia Eagles wide receivers. Obviously, it's fantastic when you do have a Devonte Smith, but it's not necessarily a requirement, because when you have a Jalen Hurts, you have someone that we know is going to be picking up a significant amount of points on the ground, and that's the main reason why you're excited about him in fantasy. So with the Jalen Hurts there, he's someone that you honestly don't even really need to stack, to be honest. Okay, so Matthew says Lance, Crunch says Brady, and then Clutch Cow says depends on the stacks. Yeah, and see, that's why I'm finding myself that I love Lance, obviously. I mean, there are very few people that are higher on Trey Lance than I am, but Matthew Stafford, I really only want to be taking him when I have a Cooper Kupp or a Robert Woods. Burrow, I only want to be taking him when I have a T. Higgins or a Jamar Chase. And Jalen Hurts, I'm kind of fine taking him even if I don't have any of the Philadelphia Eagles options. Okay, so now let's pull this up. You have some more quarterbacks going off the board. And honestly, I think we're fine with the QBs going off the board when we have Mahomes. We're more so trying to get some running back, receiver, and tight end falling to us. We just need essentially the flex guys falling. Okay, so Justin Fields at the 1103. Leonard Fournette at the 1104. Edwards. So if we get a Robert Tonyan here, I'm not a fan of Robert Tonyan, but I think based on his projection, we could potentially go through and only roster 2 tight ends here, and we can save a couple extra spots for a receiver, because we are going to want to go with 5 running backs in this construction. So Gasecki goes. I was kind of saying the name Robert Tonyan because I wanted Robert Tonyan to go so we could get Mike Gesicki with this next pick, and it would have been the same exact situation. So Latavius Murray is gone as well. So the question is there a larger fall off from the Drake, Jamal, Singletary at running back, the Robert Tonyan? I think the wide receiver room kind of here's a flat tier. So we're going to go with the Robert Tonyan. I don't love him, but we are getting him currently, how many picks behind ADP? We're getting him about a round and a half behind his ADP. And we are accomplishing something here by now that we do not have to draft a third tight end. So yeah, that's going to be our pick with Robert Tonyan at the 1108. And also, guys, if you have not dropped a like on the live stream, go down there, drop a like. I will show the top of the board for anybody who's just now coming into the stream. But let's get this live stream over 400 likes if we can. I mean, I am very, very tired, to be honest. I don't necessarily even know if I'll be able to do a third draft 100% after this one. We've done 2 so far. So make sure you're dropping a like. We'll try to get a third going. I can't promise that we're going to get a third going tonight, though, my dudes. I mean, it has been brutal. I'm just only sleeping 5 hours a night. And we also have a ton of draft guides to send out tonight for anybody who used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Okay, so now Jamal Williams, Kenyon Drake. Switch this over. Okay, so now we do just have a ton of receivers to choose from. And we do only have 5 receivers in this build. Now, I'm assuming that Freeman here, one of these picks is going to be Tua Tagovailoa, because we did see him end up taking a Jalen Waddle, and we saw him take a Will Fuller earlier in the draft. So he takes Emmanuel Sanders, and I'm almost certain that this is going to be a Tua right here. And this is exactly, you guys, please take notes of this team right here in Freeman. This is exactly how you should be constructing your Best Ball Mania teams. He went out and he still got a very high projection by making a unique build from a draft spot that not many people are going to have. So please take note of what this team did here at the 112. They did a much better job in this draft than I did. They did a much better job in this draft than I could have dreamed of. So please, when we go and show the rest of the draft board again, look at that Freeman team. And if you're going to be drafting in the $1 Million contest on Underdog Fantasy, I think you want to be trying to mimic what they did. Okay, so now at the 1205, we only have 5 receivers on this team. We can draft 5 running backs. Let me see how many running backs and receivers the teams after us have. So it looks like a lot of the teams after us have 3 and 4 running backs. So this is the only team behind us that only has 2 RBs. So I'm probably going to be going a wide receiver here because I'd imagine that we get a wide receiver run happening sooner rather than later. And considering the fact that we already have a lot of older guys here, I think that we can take someone with a little more upside. So let's go with a Gabriel Davis with our wide receiver 6 here. We're going to be taking him over a Devin Singletary. Not expecting Singletary to make it back to us, but I wouldn't be too surprised if we have other wide receivers that we really like. And a big thing is just looking at the construction of the teams behind us. I expect that the receiver tier is going to be a completely level down when we're back up. Okay, so Nelson Aguilar at the 1206. And that's intriguing because this is a team that only has 2 running backs. Snooze only has Latavius Murray and Raheem Mostert. Let's go and let's show off the top of the board. Let's look at both of these teams. Let's look at Freeman and Snooze. Okay, so here he went extremely heavy receiver. So I'd imagine that this is actually a team that's going to roster 6 running backs. Adams, A.J. Brown, George Kittle, Mike Evans, Odell, Deebo Samuel, Devonte Smith. Then he gets Raheem Mostert, Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, and Latavius Murray. So essentially, he's making a bet going, you know what? If Alvin Kamara goes down, we have a just juggernaut team that nobody's going to have a shot against. Obviously, it's a low probability, but at the same time, I mean, there is a chance. And now let's also look at the 112 because I think this is the exact thing that you should be doing when you're entering into these $1 million contests. And then we look, he goes Eckler, Barkley at the 1-2 turn. And here, these are massive reaches, but he does so with the plan because he knows there are going to be very few teams that have the combination of Austin Eckler, Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. So knowing that you're going to be one of the very few teams that has this grouping gives you a significant edge, and you can go out and you can get the stack with a Joe Burrow. Don't know if I love tripling up with the Tyler Boyd, especially for the playoff weeks. Maybe we stop at just the double stack with the 2 top guys, but you can't blame anybody for going through and just completing the triple stack when it kind of falls into your lap there. And then also getting just the stack in there with the Miami Dolphins and Will Fuller, a Jalen Waddle. So yeah, that is all really intriguing. Yeah, so it looks like we only had 2 running backs go off between our last 2 picks. So now at the 1308, we can have a couple different options for us. Nyheim Hines does go. I'm not going to take a David Johnson here. I'll say that. We're probably going to go with another receiver. Snooze. I'm assuming that he's probably going to go with the J.D. McKissic, Philip Lindsay, or David Johnson. I mean, I think at some point you have to start looking to draft running backs. I'd be very surprised if he drafts another receiver here. So he goes David Johnson. Okay, so I think we actually end up going with either a Randall Cobb or a Traquan Smith, trying to continue to build up our wide receiver room. So we're probably going to go with the Traquan Smith. So I just hate having to spend a 4th round pick on Mahomes, because when you spend a 4th round pick on Mahomes, it makes the roster look so much weaker. Even though we are saving on roster spots and we're going to be able to get this extra spike weeks at receiver, it just overall makes it look so much worse. Okay, Steve says NRG's team looks really good. Let's go through, and NRG says, look at my team, Mason. Holy smokes, I got a whole offense. Let's go through and let's check out NRG's team. I guess we can do it before we are back up on the clock. Okay, so here with NRG's at the 102, he took Dalvin, Jefferson, Lamb, Thielen, Javonte, Trey Sermon, Javonte Williams, Darnell Mooney, Logan Thomas, Tannehill, Irv Smith, Kirk Cousins. I'll say, my man, I know that on paper it's great to go through and think, I have Dalvin, Jefferson, Irv Smith, Adam Thielen, and Kirk Cousins. But for all those players to pay off at their ADP, for every single one of them to kind of provide you usage during the tournament setting, you would literally have to have Kirk Cousins top 3 in the NFL in passing. I mean, that's what realistically would have to happen. Kirk Cousins would have to be a top 3 quarterback, or possibly even higher than that in passing. I think at some point, maybe you have to draw the line and going with Dalvin, Jefferson, Thielen, Irv Smith. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but I think at some point, maybe it's like the exact opposite, where if you already have Dalvin, Jefferson, Thielen, you've already assumed that you soak up every single red zone touch in that offense. So I don't necessarily know, like, getting an Irv Smith there is that valuable. I'll say that Irv Smith was a decent value according to ADP. Just something I want to think about. Like, please let me know your thoughts on that. I think at some point, maybe it is less desirable to continue to stack an entire team, but let me know what you are thinking. Okay. So we're going to be back up on the clock. Ramondre Stevenson goes at the 14:02. Okay, so we're probably not going to be looking. We can't look at tight end the rest of the draft. So we are just quarterback, running back, receiver. So quarterbacks, we really don't have any potential stacks with the players that we've already drafted. So I'm not going to be looking QBs in this range. It's mainly just going to be running backs, receivers. So Matt Ryan goes off. What running backs could we be looking back on just a few rounds from now? Running backs are going to get very gross very soon. So what we accomplished by taking a Damian Williams here, I think this is going to differentiate ourselves slightly. And obviously we get a handcuff running back if anything happens to a David Montgomery. You know what? I can't do it. I can't take Damian Williams over Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny's a better running back and a better offense. We're taking Penny. This is going to be a team going, oh, what if Chris Carson gets hurt? That should be the name of this team. What if Chris Carson gets hurt? Let me know how bad y'all think that is for me taking Penny over Damian Williams. I just can't get behind Damian, though. Compared to Rashad Penny checks every single box. I really do think that he can be a bell cow running back if something were to occur to a Chris Carson. Yeah, so I love going out there and getting Rashad Penny. NRG says, I'm all in on Cook, so might as well commit to the 100% mania. He says, all I care about is relying on an offense to project over ADP. I'll say, but man, I will, if this was a regular 12-man league where it's like a 12-man closed league and not the tournament format, I think you're completely right. And I think that is a good bet to go in and make. And I think it's probably a really good thing to also get both Jefferson and Thielen. I'm just thinking that when you're making that bet, you're already assuming that you're capturing every single touchdown really. Like if you're drafting a Justin Jefferson and an Adam Thielen, and then Irv Smith goes out there and he has an 8-touchdown season, your Jefferson and Thielen shares, at least one of them is probably going to not necessarily be the best. So I understand getting the correlation in, but at this point, we're more so worried about getting perfect rather than just building in the correlation. So that's why I'm just posing the question. Is there a point where it kind of becomes a bad thing to do? I mean, I hate when people ask me, Mason, is it bad if I have two wide receivers on the same team together? No, that's a great thing. It's a great thing to make an overall bet on an offense. But when you're that far in, I don't necessarily think so. Connor says, is there any way to just straight up buy the draft kit? I did not decide to do that just because I think that I really don't want to be selling the draft kit for like $40, $50, $60. And then people buy the draft kit and then I run into the issue. And then they watch a stream later on and go, well, I didn't know I could have just deposited $10 on Underdog Fantasy. So no, there's no way to just buy the draft kit. You can go through and you can sign up for Patreon where we also have the draft kit. And I'll say if you sign up for Patreon and you're on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, you actually get refunded your first month on Patreon if you sign up on the Mother Flocker tier and then you use promo code FLOCK on Patreon. So yeah, there are a couple different things that we're doing, but I'm not offering it just to buy outright because I want to make sure that people are taking advantage of this offer. Because it makes way more sense for me to say, if you deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy, you get our draft kit, you get our rankings, you get our tiers, you get our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. It makes a lot more sense for me to say, do that for $10 versus let's go out and let's sell this for $50. Okay, so Lank Dog here at the 1505. There's one player I really want falling back to us. So Snooze probably going to go running back here. What running back is he going to draft? That's the question. Because he has Mostert, Latavius Murray, David Johnson, and Damian Williams. He goes Giovanni Bernard. So we're going to take Xavier Jones. Now, I am worried about Xavier Jones in a regular league because I do think that this is going to be a roster that brings in another running back by the time we get to the season. But now, as it stands, a lot of teams on Underdog in this $1 million contest did not draft Xavier Jones earlier this offseason. So if we can go out there, if we can get Xavier Jones at the 1506, I really like it just because a lot of the field doesn't have him. We need a running back 5. So now we can construct the rest of this roster with one more quarterback, 2 more receivers, and we're going to be golden. Okay, so Diami Brown at the 1510. Let's switch this over. So I do like that running back room. This running back room is essentially making a bet. What happens to Chris Carson? Is Chris Carson healthy? And then at receiver, our receiver room, we have Tyreek, Amari Cooper, Robbie Anderson, Brandon Cooks, Elijah Moore, Gabriel Davis, Trayvon Smith. So we definitely need more bullets at the receiver position. Malcolm Brown goes to the 15-11. Malcolm Brown also a fantastic selection, but we can't take Malcolm Brown when we already have Myles Gaskin on this team. Y'all know I'm not a fan of Myles Gaskin in the slightest, but at the same time, we can go through, we can go, okay, well, I mean, if most teams were drafting him in about the 4th round, it is a spot where we can get a little different by taking him at the end of the 7th. So that's more so the thought process on why we decided to draft Myles Gaskin and try to make our roster a little different from the rest of the field. Now, Blake Jarwin at the 15-12. We want to see those tight ends going off the draft board. We want to see those tight ends getting drafted. Let's go down here. Okay, so Caden says, how many of these teams have Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McCaffrey, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, Justin Jefferson, DJ Chark? I would assume 0 teams have that combination of players. So you're saying CMC in the first. Actually, yeah, CMC in the first, then Jefferson and Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the 2-3 turn, then getting Mahomes at the 4-5 turn. I would imagine a very few amount of those teams have been able to get that. Okay, so Marquez Valdes-Scantling at the 16:03. Now we are on the clock real quick. So y'all know who I'm drafting. I was drafting him before week 1 of the preseason. My guy, let's bring him in. KJ Hamler. We've already talked about the immense talent that he has. Now, yes, he's in a very bad situation, but I think we can overlook that situation and say we're just shooting for upside. What if something were to occur where he does become an every down player for Denver? So I do love getting KJ Hamler there at the 16:05. Let's scroll down. Guys, can we get this live stream over 400 likes? If we get this live stream, I'm not going to say that for sure. Okay, Marco says, can my brother make an account on Underdog and use your promo code and deposit with the same credit card I use for my account? Yes, I'd imagine 100%. If your brother has to be 18 years old, though. You have to be 18 years old. You have to be a real person to play on Underdog. They have to confirm your identity because when you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, you are getting the $25 added to your account. So yeah, of course. I mean, if your brother likes fantasy football, definitely make sure he is setting up and drafting on Underdog. More importantly, he's taking advantage of the free $25 that he's getting because that's the main thing that we are about, getting that free $25 because it's not going to be available much longer. Okay, so Van Jefferson at the 16-12. Eric Ebron, thank God, get these tight ends off the board. And we do need to draft a second quarterback, but to be completely honest, when we have Mahomes, I am fine with any of the second quarterbacks that we're going to get. It honestly doesn't have to be someone that we can stack. I mean, if we pull this up right now, it would be nice to get a potential stack in here, like stacks that we could possibly have if we go down to the receivers. I mean, obviously, we already have the Mahomes with Tyreek Hill, Dak Prescott already off the board. We could get a Sam Darnold in Houston. Technically, we could get a Tyrod Taylor. Not something I'm wanting to do. Zach Wilson, I believe he was just selected. Obviously, no chance of a player like a Josh Allen. So essentially, it comes down to, are we drafting Sam Darnold here, or are we possibly going to go with like a Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston? We could get a Drew Lock as well. Okay, well, let's see. Okay, so Donovan Peoples-Jones goes at the 16:07. And real quick, Sam Darnold has the week 13 bye. See, we're going to get a perfect situation falling to us. We're going to get Sam Darnold in the 13th to stack with Robbie Anderson as our quarterback too. Now, all we have to do is we have to get one more receiver in here. We're going to get someone that is being drafted in very few leagues. That way we can go and make sure we're trying to get this roster to be a little more unique. Okay, so Darrington Evans at the 17:09. I really do like Darrington Evans with this value because we could be looking at Darrington Evans and saying, hell, this is a player that you could end up having step into a 3-down role if something were to occur to Derrick Henry. So yeah, I do like Darrington Evans for that reason. Iggy's saying draft Watson. My man, I've drafted Watson in a ton of these leagues. I'm not drafting him in the regular 12-man best ball leagues that we're doing, but in these tournament best balls where we're just shooting for upside, you better believe I've been drafting him. I'll say I don't necessarily agree in taking the risk in Watson when we have a Mahomes. The majority of the time that I take a Deshaun Watson, we're building the entire team around Deshaun Watson has to 100% be playing. So I am loving taking Deshaun Watson when our first quarterback, someone like a Baker Mayfield. Like if we go Mayfield and Watson, knowing that if Watson doesn't play, our team's dead regardless. But if Watson plays, we're going to be able to use every single one of his weeks to our advantage while we soaked up receivers earlier on. So I agree with y'all that Watson is a good play at quarterback, but if we're going to roll the dice and if we're going to completely ignore the floor of a player, I think that we also just have to be saying, well, if the floor doesn't matter, then let's pretend like he automatically hit. And if he automatically hit, what teams are we taking the most advantage of a Deshaun Watson on? And those are going to be the teams where you only draft one other quarterback and you wait on that quarterback because you have to assume that if Deshaun Watson plays, he would be a 4th round selection. So I don't like the idea of taking both Mahomes and Watson. I mean, when I'm going to be drafting Watson as my second quarterback, it's going to be a team that I drafted a very bad quarterback to start. And I know a lot of people aren't necessarily going to understand that thought process, but I have sat here and I've spent so many times thinking it through, and I've come to that conclusion. I think it would be very hard for me to deviate from it, to be honest. I think it would be very hard. Okay, so now we are going to be making our last pick here. And with our last pick, there are a couple different routes we can go. I mean, it's not like we're going to get excited about drafting anybody from Carolina, and pretty much every receiver from Kansas City is getting drafted. I don't think we look to make a stack here with our last receiver. We're mainly just going to be looking for someone that we think is talented and that's not going to get drafted at all. Really, if we go and we look at this team, we didn't take any of the players for Baltimore. So maybe we make this construction and saying, what happens if Rashad Bateman's actually a lot more injured than they're leading on? And what happens if Hollywood Brown misses some time? So just playing the what if game, we're going to take Devin Duvernay going into year 2. The main reason I'm taking Devin Duvernay is because we just saw that JN entered the chat. So we're going to make this as a tribute pick. And if you're taking him in a regular 12-man league, it's a very bad selection. But if we're taking him in a tournament format, I think it actually makes a lot of sense as a receiver that does have some upside, gets this a low probability hit. But we understand that all those players are, and we're more so looking for someone that if he hits, we're going to get the most for it. And that's going to be someone that's getting very rarely drafted. James says, it says I can't get verified. Okay, guys, if you cannot get verified on Underdog Fantasy, that's the main issue. I believe I've had 2 people reach out to me saying that they've had that same problem. And both people, when they sent a DM or they sent a customer support ticket to Underdog Fantasy, it was resolved very early on. So make sure you just send a message to Underdog, and I'm sure they're going to be very happy to fix that for you. Okay, so let's go down. Let's show the top of the draft board as well. Daniel says Patrick showed a lot last year. Yeah, but we also drafted KJ Hamler on this team. So the Tim Patrick, what are we really betting on if we draft both KJ Hamler and a Tim Patrick? That doesn't necessarily make sense. Okay, so JN comes out and says, what a gangster pick. My man, you know that was a tribute pick for you. Okay, so let me pull this over. And guys, y'all can see it in my face. I am extremely tired. I will be willing to get another draft going. We'll probably do a private draft if we get another one going. But let's make it a ridiculous, let's make it a ridiculous goal. If this live stream, that the majority of these live streams get 600 to 700 likes by the time we're going into our third draft. If this live stream gets 400 and let's call it 430 likes, 430 likes, we'll go through and we'll do another draft. I'll set it up right now just because I want to make sure that we're getting as much sleep as possible. So if we get that if we get that within the next 2 minutes, then I'll go through, I'll send that link out. If not, we're going to shut the stream down just because I'm sorry, guys. We've been live streaming 4 drafts pretty much every single night. We did 4 drafts last night. I was up until 2 a.m. sending out draft guides last night. So I'm going to be sending out draft guides all night tonight as well for anybody who used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, got their $25 with a $10 deposit, supported the channel. So we are going to be coming out and we're going to be going and staying up all night regardless if we get another draft in or not. But let's see if y'all really want us to get another one out, because just the easiest way for y'all to tell me y'all want another one is by dropping that like. Okay, so it looks like we're skyrocketing in likes. So it looks like we're getting another draft going. Let me set this up right now because I can't be getting this going for that long. Okay, because I believe we're about to pass 430 likes. It looks like I'll set this up just in case we do. Create a private draft. My God, guys. Y'all really have to wait for me to say that before y'all drop a like on the live stream. It is that easy. Y'all can't just go down there and drop a like regardless and help out the channel. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now, my dudes? Okay, so let me get a let me get a $5 draft going. We hit 430 likes. Thank you, my dudes. But it also shows me that y'all are not liking the video. Y'all are not liking the video when y'all get in. Let me send this out. Okay, we just sent that. And now I'm assuming that this is going to get filled in about 5 seconds. Okay, so let's go through. We got 5 more spots open. Now we are going to be picking, hopefully at the 101. Give us the 101. We get the 110. Oh my gosh. The 110. I mean, our drafts tonight, the 109, the 108, the 110, the range we are used to, the range that we have been given. I don't know why the fantasy football gods think that we deserve this kind of punishment. I don't know why they think that we need the 110. And yes, I know a lot of people are saying for me to just go to sleep, not do another draft. But no, if y'all are going to come out, y'all are going to support the channel. I mean, I love drafting. I know maybe I seem a little tired, which I am, but trust me, I'm going to be really happy to go through and get another draft going. All I ask is if y'all enjoy the live stream, please, guys, please, if y'all want this to happen again next year, make sure y'all are using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. I'm sure that everybody in this live stream right now, at least 90% of people have done so. But also, I really just want to make sure that we are going to get Underdog to fly some of y'all out here to go to that Florida Flock meetup and also to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game with me. I mean, I've never been to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. I think it would be amazing. Like, do y'all want to go to a game where you can say you saw Tom Brady live? How many people in the live chat have seen Tom Brady play live? So I think that's a fantastic goal. It's very easy to hit. We literally get like 30,000 views a day. And all we need is 10,000 signups leading up until the season. We should have been able to hit this by now, my dudes, to be completely honest. Scott says, I really want to see you draft from the #1 overall. My man, join the freaking club. Trust me, I want to see myself draft from the 101 as well. I will say that right now. Okay, so now we have CMC, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Devonte Adams at the 104. And what's going to be nice about this draft is we are going to be able to kind of transition our mindset. We're not just shooting for the uppity upside. Instead, we can go through. We can get a little bit more of a unique build. Okay, so let's pull this up. So Kelsey at the 106. Let's see how many people are regulars out here. We got Florida G. We got a lot of new people out here. Okay, I'm glad we got this draft started. It looks like we have some new people in the... It looks like we got some new people out here. So I'm excited about this. Barkley at the 108. Okay, so when Tyreek Hill goes, let's just take an Aaron Jones. We're going to take, I want to say, kind of a conservative approach to this draft where we're not just hunting that upside. So we can take an Aaron Jones here at the 110. Okay, JB Pats says, I'm a Pats fan. I've seen him a few times in Gillette. Such a great time. Man, I kind of want to see, I'll be the first person to admit, guys, it's embarrassing, but I was one of the people before the Super Bowl run for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year. I was one of the few people saying that Tom Brady was not the GOAT. I was saying it was Peyton Manning. And of course, once he goes and wins in Tampa, I have to retract that statement. And Tom Brady is clearly the greatest quarterback to ever play. And probably the greatest, definitely the greatest football player to ever play. Maybe the greatest athlete, at least the most winning athlete. I mean, if you consider how hard it is to actually win the Super Bowl and that it's a one-game sample, it's a one-game tournament. So yeah, I've kind of had to retract that. So, I mean, of course, it would be amazing to see Tom Brady play in person because that's something that you could talk about for years. Jayan says, the most unique build would be drafting the Broncos stack. Nobody's drafting Lock. My man, I'm actually going to be doing that very, very often. As soon as we get news on who the starting quarterback is going to be for Denver, you better believe that in those $1 million drafts, I'm going to be drafting them a lot in the last round because they'll be owned nowhere. None of the player pool will actually have them. Okay. So let's see if there are any weird picks so far in this draft. Not necessarily. It looks like a very standard draft so far. Darren Waller with the 205's a little rich for Darren Waller, but I'm not going to complain whatsoever. I think that given the fact that we're trying to transition over and we also need to care about the floor that we have with this team, Aaron Jones and DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to be a nice combination to start. Hopkins, we just know this is a receiver that is going to go and get 160 targets. It's literally his MO. He's going to get 160 targets every single season. So let's go out. Let's just lock him in the second round. And we're going to have a very balanced start, but it's not the best ball mania, so we don't need to be extreme. Ryan says, Mason, who's your favorite NFL player and team? I'll say I do not have a favorite NFL team. And if I'm going to be rooting for a specific NFL player this season, like my favorite guy to root for is probably either Sammy Watkins or Amari Cooper, to be honest. I mean, I have said this story so many times before, but I became obsessed with Dynasty Fantasy Football back in 2014. So that was the year where you had Mike Evans, Brandon Cooks, Amari Cooper, Allen Robinson. I mean, so many talented players coming into the NFL. I'm sorry, Amari Cooper came in 2015. Let me continue. But yeah, then I just obsessed. And the only thing, I mean, y'all can tell the only thing I think about now is fantasy football. But the first time that I'd ever let it consume my life was that 2014, 2015 summer where I was going through and just diving into those rookies coming into the NFL as deep as I could possibly go. And I just think about them every single day, as weird as it sounds. So I kind of fell in love with the prospect profiles of both Sammy Watkins and Amari Cooper. I love Odell Beckham Jr. as well. I mean, literally the guys that I had the jerseys on the wall behind us. The reason I had those jerseys on the wall and with their original teams, that's definitely something I want to point out, is because those are the players that kind of made me fall in love with Dynasty Fantasy Football, which made me fall in love with fantasy football in general. So yeah, I'm rooting for my guys. I'm rooting for those receivers in the 2014 class. A team, maybe now that I live in Tampa, I will be rooting for the Bucks. Maybe. I can't say so for sure, though. I mean, y'all can see that I'm not drafting many Bucks players. Maybe I can try to convince myself to root for the Bucks because I was talking to a lot of people in Tampa, and they were saying that when the Bucks won the Super Bowl, it was insane. So I would like to be a part of that, like if the city's going to go crazy. But I don't have a favorite NFL team. I do have favorite NFL players, though. Okay, so now let's go and let's pull this back up. We're probably going to go with... Actually, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. We're just going to wait to see what falls to us. Did Danny V go? Okay, so he went with the Darren Waller here. I was wondering if he actually added George Kittle. Okay, so Chapman, Gibson, Tyreek Hill, DJ, Ezekiel, Elliott, and Nick Chubb. And guys, also, if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you subscribe. We live stream every single night. And honestly, more important than just subscribing is going to be hitting the bell next to the subscribe button. That way, you know exactly when we go live. Like the last two live streams, we've sent out the link in the live chat. They'll get sent out on Patreon first. But I mean, if they don't fill through Patreon, then it gets sent out in the live chat. So if you're out right away, you're going to have a much better chance of getting in. So do we take a DeAndre Swift? Let me see if we can try to get a read on the room with how they're going to be drafting receivers. Honestly, I'm not necessarily too worried about them pushing receivers too far up the board. I think where receivers have gone so far, it's been kind of standard. So we're going to get a DeAndre Swift here at the end of the third. I don't necessarily think we would do this in $1 million draft, but we don't necessarily have to hunt for that same type of upside. So we're going to go with the Swift at the 310. J-Bug says, my favorite team is the Falcons, which is a net loss. I don't think I've ever talked to someone whose favorite team was the Atlanta Falcons, to be honest. I don't think I've ever had that conversation. Okay, so now let's pull this back up. Okay, so after going with Swift, we're going to be in a spot where we can do a couple different things. Where we could go receiver, we could go running back. I'm not going to be looking quarterback or tight end. So we really only have two things to look at. We only have quarterback and we only have running back and receiver. Y'all can tell how tired I am, my dude. So I'm going to be sending out draft guides all night tonight as well. Okay, so Chris Godwin at the 402. Obviously, we hate to see Godwin going off. And the problem is, I know that I come out here and I say that I'm not drafting Mike Evans. And if you look at my exposures, I had no Mike Evans beforehand. But the thing is, when I'm drafting with y'all are taking Chris Godwin over Evans. But when I'm drafting in the public leagues, that would never happen. So I guess when I'm with y'all, I draft Mike Evans. And when I'm in the public leagues, I just snag a bunch of Chris Godwin. I'm assuming that's how we kind of approach it. I wanted to go receiver there. We ended up getting a DeAndre Swift in the third. Now, something we can look back and think about, would we prefer the combination of Swift and Evans, or would we prefer the combination of Amari Cooper and Chris Carson? I'm not necessarily sure with that answer. Let me know what y'all are thinking. Okay, so Chris Carson. Okay, so Jack says he is a Chargers fan. My man, I feel like being a Chargers fan would be fantastic. Okay, first off, the Chargers have some of the most badass uniforms in the entire NFL. I mean, the merch you can wear for the Chargers, fantastic. And I know that sounds dumb. I know people are going to make fun of me for that. But, hey, that color scheme, I'm willing to walk around in a shirt rocking the Chargers. And also, Justin Herbert, obviously, you can get so excited about Herbert. You just had literally an era of Phillip Rivers. I mean, it's so funny if you think about it. Like, if you're an NFL fan, a fan of an NFL team, like, and if you fall into a Ben Roethlisberger, you fall into a Drew Brees, a Phillip Rivers, a Tom Brady, and Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback that's going to be with your team forever, like, you just grow up your entire life, essentially, with that quarterback. Like, a perfect example is, y'all know I just graduated from the University of Texas. So my freshman year, it was the same season of Sam Ehlinger's true freshman season. So every single year that I had at the University of Texas, we had Sam Ehlinger as our starting quarterback, and it was just like an era of Texas football that I kind of got lodged into. But it's even crazier in the NFL because that era will last. Like, how long was Phillip Rivers playing in San Diego? I mean, it had to be forever, right? It had to be I'm not even going to take a guess. I'm not even going to take a guess. I'd embarrass myself. Let me pull this up. So if we count how many games he had in San Diego, he started in 2004. He didn't really start playing until 2006. So he had 12 seasons of Phillip. You had over a decade of Phillip Rivers. You could have had a child and sent that child all the way where he was leading up to being a freshman in high school. And all he would have known is Phillip Rivers as the quarterback for the Los Angeles Chargers. That is crazy to think about. And I know I'm being so dumb right now, but my dudes, I am very tired. And Mason coming out says, who would you pick in the first couple of rounds with the 5th pick overall? My man, thank you, of course, for the donation. Let me go through. Let's look at the 5th pick overall. Let's just act as if this would be the draft that we were in and go, okay, if we were at the 105 in this draft, who would we be looking at? So here, I think I take Alvin Kamara. I mean, if a Davonte Adams falls to you, in your specific league, you're probably going to be taking Davonte Adams because he's probably not going beyond the top 5 pick. Then you have Joe Mixon here at the 208. I would probably take Mixon here, to be completely honest, especially if we started off with Davonte Adams. Then when we get to the 3rd, I'm personally probably going to be going with the receiver. I probably would go with an Allen Robinson. DJ Moore definitely in the 4th. If you don't get a DJ Moore, go with either a Julio Jones or a T. Higgins. And then to Travis, literally, this team right here, Decentnators, I would almost copy and paste exactly what they did. Okay, so now we are about to be up on the clock. Let's get this going. Let's get this again. And no, we're not going to be considering Kyle Pitts. Y'all know I cannot draft Kyle Pitts here. What we can do is we can try to make a play. Now, I have to zip it, not talk about it, because we're going to have picks right after ours. We have 4 picks between us before we back up on the clock, which kind of does suck when we're live streaming because I want to tell you all my thought process as we go through it, and I just simply can't. Okay, so now we have Odell, Josh Allen. And also, guys, a reminder, if y'all have used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, you got your $25 added onto your account. You also got the ability to get our 2021 draft guide and our 2021 rankings. All you need to do is shoot me a DM on either Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Discord, wherever, with the email that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with. That way I know exactly where I can go out there and I can send that guide out. Now we are going to be taking a very easy pick. We're going to get Kyler Murray here as our top quarterback. Now we're going to be taking Kyler on a team where we took DeAndre Hopkins. That's a big reason why you want to be taking Hopkins in the 2nd, is when you have one of these elite quarterbacks falling to you in the end of the 5th, you do have a potential to go out there and actually stack that player, and it's going to make that pick a lot more exciting for you. Now, some developments that I want to look at with this overall draft board in terms of the constructions that are a little more unique is if we look at a team right now in Danny V, this is a team that only has Tyler Lockett at receivers, so that's something I definitely want to continue to monitor. And also, if we go through, we look at Deezinators, this is someone that only has DJ Moore. So we can assume that there are going to be two teams that are probably only drafting receivers for about the next 3 or 4 rounds. I think that does play an impact on what we are going to be looking to do in the 6th, because y'all know I love one of these players here, but I mean, there are a lot of guys that I'm honestly fine with. I really want to take a tight end. But the problem is I think receivers just going to be getting soaked up. So Kareem Hunt goes. So I think in a vacuum, we want Mark Andrews, because with Mark Andrews, I think we have to bump him up our rankings with the Rashad Bateman and the Hollywood Brown injury. So in a vacuum, I probably want Andrews. But with how this draft board's laid out, I'm very afraid that we're going to see a significant wide receiver run after this pick. I don't like any of those receivers. I'm going to take best player available. We'll get an extra receiver on this roster. We're just going to take Mark Andrews. We're going to have a very balanced start. I'm scared. What we should have done with this team, looking back on it, is we should have gone with an Amari Cooper instead of a DeAndre Swift. Then I think we would be a lot more excited with where we stand at the receiver position, because I am just afraid that they are going to get soaked up here. I mean, it is going to get ugly by the time we are back up in the late 7th. Jay says, take Kyle Pitts and diversify. I'm not taking Kyle Pitts, guys. I've already said this. I'm on record. I do not understand taking Kyle Pitts when we have seen Andrews be consistently a top 6 tight end in fantasy, and he's also extremely young. He's extremely young. I think he's going to continue to progress. So I'm going to take Andrews, and I would honestly take Hawkinson over Kyle Pitts as well. And I will say a lot of people that are a lot smarter than me disagree with me on that. A lot of people smarter than me think that Kyle Pitts is easily in a tier ahead of Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson. So I want to give that disclaimer out here, and I'm willing to admit that I could easily be wrong. But personally, I'm not going to be able to do it. I've drafted Kyle Pitts in one league, and I think we actually took him here at the end of the 6th. And that was after you actually had already TJ Hawkinson and Kyle Pitts off the board. Foster says, quote unquote, best player available, Pitts rolling in his grave. I know a lot of people are going to hate seeing that, especially when Kyle Pitts is so much further up in ADP. And a lot of the times I am going to be paying attention to average draft position when we go through and we do these drafts, because I'm going to be playing in 250, 300 of these leagues by the time we get to the year. Now, these are all real money leagues at the same time. So we have to make sure that we are diversifying just slightly. But I don't necessarily know if we can get behind Kyle Pitts there. Even to diversify, I want him to be one of my lowest owned players. Okay, so Trey Sermon at the 609. Honestly, I'm kind of fine seeing these running backs go off the board. When we have an Aaron Jones, when we have a DeAndre Swift, I'm fine seeing the running backs go off. I'm more so concerned about us getting some wide receivers coming back when we only have a DeAndre Hopkins and we only have a Mike Evans, and we need to start 3 receivers every single week in this format. Okay, also, we are about to pass 500 likes on the live stream, my dudes. I mean, we did a goal where we literally said if we got X amount of likes, we would get another draft going, and all of a sudden, everybody came out of the weeds to drop a like on the video, and we got like 100 likes in just a couple seconds. So for whatever reason, you're one of those people that watches the video without dropping a like. Help us out. If you are enjoying it, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. And make sure you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy, which is where we're drafting every single night, to get $25 added to your account with a $10 deposit, to get our 2021 draft guide, to get our 2021 rankings and tiers, and to get our 2021 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. Literally hundreds of pages of information, my dudes. Hundreds of pages. Okay, so yeah, here's that wide receiver run that we were talking about. I still think that probably Andrews was the best pick to have at the 603. Okay. So Gallup at the 702. And let's go back up. Let's see if there are any interesting developments since we looked at the top of the board. So I guess Swizworld, he has gone through and he has drafted 5 wide receivers on this team. So there are a couple rosters with 5 receivers. Okay, so the top 3 teams in this league have 5 receivers at the minimum. You also have all these teams right here have 5 wide receivers. That is extremely concerning with how depleted the position is going to end up being. Yeah, Nicole Hardman going out at the 706. This is someone that's usually going in the 8th round. We may not even be able to draft a receiver in this round. We may end up having to go with the running back. That's kind of the reaching that we're seeing. I guess they maybe reached on a Nicole Hardman to get the stack in there with the Mahomes and a Travis Kelce. But it looks like people are going after the receiver position hard in this draft. Did not mean to do that, my dudes. Sorry about that. Let's put this back up. So the 7-10, we possibly have to go with the running back. I mean, the thing is, wide receivers are an entire round down in their ADP. And if we get another running back here, we're probably only going to have to roster 5 of them. And we can do 9 receivers, 2 tight ends, 2 quarterbacks, 9 receivers, 5 running backs. So Fuller goes. I think we're going to take Chase Edmonds here. We're going to take Edmonds. These teams behind us only have 2 running backs like we do. I think Edmonds is a clear tier ahead of all these running backs in this range. And then these wide receivers are about the same for me. So we're going to take a Chase Edmonds. And we're also getting that stat coming in with a Kyler Murray and a DeAndre Hopkins. So we're essentially making a bet on the overall offense for the Arizona Cardinals. Let me know what y'all think about that. But I think it sucks. I mean, I really wanted to take a receiver, and I knew that wide receiver run was going to happen here. And it definitely limits the ceiling of this team if we're going to be at a hole at receiver. But I think we kind of had to go Edmonds. Pedro says, yo, Mason, just hopped on. Mind telling me what the subscribe button does? Pedro, to be completely honest, I really haven't figured out exactly what the subscribe button does. I've heard that it just makes you a cooler person. It makes you a better fantasy football player overall. Now, I haven't had confirmation from YouTube about that. And a lot of people down in the comment section actually tells me that subscribing to the channel will make you worse at fantasy football, which is entirely possible. That's a massive disclaimer that I need to put out there. But based on the sample that I have seen of people subscribing to the channel, what it does in terms of impacting their lives is it's probably getting them more ladies, to be completely honest, because of course you get that clout when you say you're subscribed to the Fantasy Flock Network. It's probably making you a lot cooler and a lot more sociable in social circles. And to go along with all of this, there's no way it's not making you better at fantasy football. There's no way that's not the case. And I don't even want to get in to what happens if you hit that bell next to the subscribe button. Because if you think you get a lot cooler when you subscribe to the channel, hitting that bell is like next level. And now we cannot take a Michael Thomas here. If this was the best ball mania, if we were trying to play for $1 million, we would take a Michael Thomas. Instead, we need to go with a Jarvis Landry. We don't have any stacks with those quarterbacks above. We really need a receiver that's going to have just a nice floor for us. So we're going to go with a Jarvis as our wide receiver 3 here. This team so far, we have Kyler at quarterback. At running back, we have Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Chase Edmonds. At receiver, we have DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Jarvis. At tight end, we have Mark Andrews. I hate this team. This is one of the worst teams we have drafted in a while. Let's try to figure out what we could have done that's better. This is a very bad team, though. This is a horrendous team. So I'm fine with what we did in the first and second round with an Aaron Jones and a DeAndre Hopkins. But I think the real problem is when we go through and when we look at this draft room and how it's trending and how you have an Allen Robinson, a Tyler Lockett, a Robert Woods going in this range, we should have probably known that it was going to trend for the wide receivers to go off earlier than expected. So I think the mistake that we made was going with the DeAndre Swift. I think what we should have done is we should have passed on Swift. We should have got another receiver in an Amari Cooper, because would we have rather have the combination of DeAndre Swift and Jarvis Landry, or would we rather have the combination of an Amari Cooper and a James Robinson? I don't know the answer for that for sure, but it's at least an interesting conversation that we can have. So I do not like what we did with this team. I think that's where we went off the wall. Or what we can also look at is at the 603, where y'all know I said Mark Andrews is the best value, but I don't want to be taking a tight end because the wide receivers that we'll have available to us later on in the draft will be disgusting. And even though we knew that, we went with a tight end anyway. Maybe that was the mistake that we made with the team. So please let me know what y'all are thinking. Let me know what y'all are thinking. Ethan says our mistake was drafting Kyle Pitts. Ethan says one of his worst predictions of all time is not having a good rookie season. Have you ever seen his build? I'll say, like I've already admitted, a lot of people a lot smarter than me love Kyle Pitts this season. I just can't get behind it. I can't. I can't look at the historical trends with what we have seen in these rookie tight ends season after season after season after season after season, letting us down with their ADP. And I know Kyle Pitts is the best tight end prospect of all time, and I am fully willing to admit that. But he's also the highest drafted tight end rookie of all time at the same time. So you're not necessarily getting a discount. You're not necessarily fooling anybody. We have never seen the tight end, never in a million years, seen the tight end go anywhere close to this range in fantasy drafts. So it's hard for me. It's hard for me with Kyle Pitts. Gavin says, disclaimer, subscribing to the Flock on YouTube and signing up for Underdog using Flock will give you a crippling fantasy football addiction. My man, I have been dealing with that crippling fantasy football addiction since 2014. I am infecting y'all with that addiction. I mean, y'all know that I'm addicted to fantasy football when y'all see exactly how much I'm willing to put in for this and exactly how many drafts we are going to be in this year, all real money leagues. Okay, so Tyler Higbee at the 903. Corey Davis at the 905. Okay, so yeah, we don't want to see. I just need to shut up. I need to stop talking. I need to stop talking. We need to pay a little less attention to trying to narrate what we're doing, and let's just accomplish it. Let's just get it done here. So the 9-10, our build so far, just for anybody who's just now coming into the stream, we have Kyler, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, Chase Edmonds. At receiver, we have DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Jarvis Landry, and Mark Andrews. Okay, so Chapman on the clock right now. He has like the exact same build of us. He goes with a Hollywood Brown. I think we are just needing to catch up on receiver. I know there are a lot of other good values here, but I think we have to take an Elijah Moore, to be honest. I think we have no other option but to take an Elijah Moore. Now, if we did have a Logan Thomas or a Dallas Goedert falling to us in the 10th round, we probably take them, and then we're going to be done at tight end. If we were looking at quarterbacks, considering we have a Kyler Murray, I'm probably not going to be taking a quarterback at the 10:03 just because, I mean, it doesn't accomplish anything for us in terms of giving us a higher output with our spike weeks. And at the same time, we're going to be only drafting 2 quarterbacks regardless when we take a Kyler Murray. So I don't necessarily think that going with a Jalen Hurts or a Trey Lance makes much sense whatsoever. Okay. So Jay Wall on the clock. He has Wilson, Noah Fant at tight end. Running back, Montgomery, Hunt, Gaskin. Receiver, Diggs, Evans, Landry, and Elijah Moore. Okay, so Clutch Cow on the clock. 2 running backs, 5 receivers. Come on. Give us our guy here. Give us our guy. Let him fall. Thank God. Thank God we get him. We needed Devontae Parker on this build. We needed another receiver for this league. Oh my gosh. That, I don't want to say it saved us, but the receiver pool with how it was drying up, if we weren't able to get a quality wide receiver 5 in a best ball format like this, we were just done. I needed Devontae Parker so badly. Devontae Parker was someone we had to draft there. Okay. Gavin says, bro, you had me in work meetings mid best ball drafts stressing over my next pick. My man, it's easy for me to go through, and it's easy for me during my quote unquote work when all I'm doing is fantasy football research to have a draft going alongside it. If you're in a real job, if you're not going to be just making fantasy football videos and podcasts all day, I would probably not draft it at work, my man, because I mean, it definitely takes a ton of my attention. So after we get Devontae Parker, thank God, I mean, we get that receiver before we have that run on guys. Henry Ruggs, Rondell Moore, Bryan Edwards, all going off directly after. So yeah, we needed Parker there. I mean, we pull this up right now. You look, and literally it's just quarterbacks and running backs at the top of the draft board in terms of best available. Very few wide receivers to see. So we kind of got a guy that was one of the last players in a tier. Clutch Cow says, Mason, I figured I'd let Parker fall to you to help you out. Thank you for that, my man. Thank you for tossing me a bone. Okay, so Stafford, Joe Burrow, James Conner. Jayan says he's at $615 spent on underdog drafts. My man, slow down. We still got a long way. Slow down, slow down. Okay, Luke says, thoughts on Henry Ruggs. Okay, so with Henry Ruggs, the first thing I'll say is if you want an in-depth breakdown on him, the best thing you can do is deposit $10 on Underdog Fantasy. With that $10 deposit, they're going to add $25 to your account. You're going to get our 2021 rankings, our 2021 draft guide. But beyond this, let's dive into Henry Ruggs. This is someone that I think a lot of people are kind of willing to write off Bryan Edwards for his rookie season and call it a red shirt rookie season, given the fact that he suffered an ankle injury to start the year, whereas Henry Ruggs, another player that he literally only missed one less game than Bryan Edwards. They're both guys that were injured their rookie seasons, were never really able to get going. Obviously, Nelson Aguilar going over to New England is going to open up targets in that offense. With a Henry Ruggs, he's more appealing in best ball, considering the fact that he's going to be an extremely high average depth of target receiver, and you're not necessarily looking at him as someone you know when you're going to be able to start him. So he's appealing in best ball, especially in this range. I probably would be taking him here exactly at the 10:04, to be honest. But in a regular league where you have to go through and you have to submit your starting lineup each and every week, probably not drafting that much Henry Ruggs. Okay. So now let's go through. Let's pull up this next pick. Okay, so now that we have 5 receivers, we have a lot more flexibility in that we don't have to draft another one right here. We can if we want. We can if the value presents itself. Now, if we're talking quarterbacks with a Justin Fields, with the Trevor Lawrence, we don't have any potential stacks here. Not going to be too intrigued. Of course, if there are no other options that we like, we could end up going that route. Dagger says, I started off Zeke and Devonte Adams. What do you think? I think that you're probably playing in like a 6-man format. How the hell did you start with Ezekiel Elliott and Devonte Adams? If that's like a 10 or a 12-man league, my man, congrats. That's fantastic. Okay, so at the 11-10, we're going to get a player that we like here regardless. I'm going to wait for a second to get Chapman to take this pick. So he goes Tony Pollard. Yeah, we were probably going to take Pollard. Here, I think taking an Irv Smith actually does help us out a lot. And that while, yes, we have a Mark Andrews, if we take an Irv Smith, it's a different bye week, and we can be confident that we no longer have to look at the tight end position. So now we are just going to be going down, and we're just going to be looking at the players that we can draft at quarterback, running back, and receiver, and we only need one more QB at the same time. So we are going to have those extra roster spots for the other positions. Okay, so Rashad Bateman at the 11-12. Let's pull this up. Bateman, honestly, I'm a little less intrigued in this format, and that's only a 12-man league, and we're not necessarily having to worry about the playoff setting. So I think we're just trying to get guys that we think will have the most points scored this year, as boring as that sounds. So now that we're on the clock, we're probably going to go Latavius Murray here, just because running backs that we're going to see later on, not going to be that exciting. Actually, no, Latavius, he has to be falling right now. If Latavius is falling, do we just take a Trevor Lawrence? No, we're not going to take a Trevor Lawrence. Let's get another receiver in here. Let's just get another receiver. It's going to be our 6th receiver. We're still not strong at the position. I mean, Latavius, if it wasn't for them going out there and making it sound like he wasn't just a guaranteed player for that second string job, we would be taking Latavius. But I think instead we want to be grabbing a receiver. Teresa says, Mason, don't forget the bye week on quarterback. Thank you, Teresa. And I promise you, I've gotten a lot better about that as of late. I mean, I think it's more so the practice of me like working and drafting at the same time with the 30-second timer. So it's like kind of ingrained with me to just double check the bye weeks when it comes to those tight ends and the quarterbacks. But yeah, it was difficult at first since we were live streaming and so many things were going on to make sure that we were double checking those. But we've gotten a lot better at that now. Okay, so Jacoby Myers at the 12:06. Roberto says, do you do regular drafts where you edit your lineup? Yeah, we did a lot of those earlier in the season where those teams have already been drafted. We actually did a league where I spent $1,000 just on a format like that. But when we're gearing up for the season right now, we are going to be sticking it with these underdog drafts, given the fact that, I mean, it's the best thing for us to become better drafters in fantasy football. And at the same time, I can get as many of y'all in these as possible because I can do as many of these drafts as possible because I will be drafting alongside y'all. And to be honest, guys, I know that this is going to be something that we've never done before, and I'm really sorry for it. But we may not live stream the entire rest of this draft because I really do need to start sending out those draft guides. It's almost midnight here. So if you signed up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, DM me on either Twitter, Discord, email, Patreon, anywhere you can reach me. Go to the description of the video. I promise you, you'll be able to reach me. And all you have to say is, Mason, listen here, you bum. I used promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Send me the draft guide and I'll send it to you right now. But I have to go through to send out a lot of draft guides, reply to a lot of messages. So we probably are going to be ending this live stream. Now, let me grab a link to our free fantasy football group chat, and I will be sending that out in the live chat. And we stream every single night, multiple real money fantasy football leagues. So if you want to come out to a draft, if you want to get in a draft with us, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell next to the subscribe button. So I'm going to send out a link to our free fantasy football group chat. This is a chat where I'm not asking you to plug in your email. I'm not asking you for a credit card. There's like no BS here. It's literally a fantasy football chat. You click the link, you choose your nickname, whatever you want to get called. You just type it in. It can be whatever you want. And then you're in a 4,000 person group chat for talking fantasy football. Very, very simple. I'm sure that everybody knows what Discord is by now, but if you just want to get in our Discord chat, I will send this out right now. And thank you, my dudes, for coming out. If you have not already, make sure you drop a like on the live stream, subscribe to the channel, use promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. And that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day.